Chapter 9:16. The sky. Could it be the sky? Howl's face was filled with shock and fear. The great clan elder is crazy. To use this to seal the entire Saint continent. How many temple clan elders will die? No one doubted the great clan elder's words of wiping out everyone in one fell swoop. The grand scene before them seemed to be describing the great clan elder's lofty aspirations. The rain-like light auras brought forth terrifying whistles as they struck one of the pillars of punishment. What is its use? Tang Tian racked his brains. If he could understand the usage of the pillars of punishment, he would be able to come up with a countermeasure. But a shocking scene occurred. All of the attacks were like clay oxen entering the ocean. They did not cause any ripples. To be able to maintain his composure in such a situation and give out orders in an orderly manner, Sadra is truly not a simple person. Including Tang Tian, everyone's faces became extremely ugly. You only understand now. Sadra, you've regressed. Huh, a special method. Could it be that these pillars of punishment are used to seal the Saint continent? Tang Tian took a deep breath and calmed the anxiety in his heart. He knew that it was useless to be anxious at the moment, but the intense sense of danger enveloped his heart, and the immense pressure pressed down on him like a mountain. Truly extravagant. In Tang Tian's vision, there were more than 10 pillars of holy flames, and in the distant horizon, there were even more pillars of golden flames soaring into the sky. Back to the main topic, Tang Tian forced himself to calm down and focused on the situation in front of him. Tang Tian sighed in his heart. It had been a long time since he had such admiration for someone. He had personally witnessed how the pillars of punishment were formed. It was Clan Elder Seuss who was incinerated into ashes that created the pillars of punishment. Such a grand scene. With so many pillars of punishment, how many clan elders must be incinerated to death? Behind such a grand scene, how much danger and killing intent is hidden? How cold is it? Hearing that, the rest all relaxed. That's right, although they are temporarily unable to leave the Saint Continent, but to kill them, we need to fight with real swords and spears. But the strength that Temple could bring out was pitifully little. As for starving to death, that was even more ridiculous. Sandra did not expect the great elder to research such an obscure thing, and it seemed like he had made a breakthrough. He had never heard of the pillars of punishment needing human lives to be activated. You want to deal with all the prestigious families. The great elder's strength surpassed any enemy he had encountered in the past. He was shrewd, cunning, ruthless, decisive, and filled with patience. He could tell that the first elder had secretly prepared this situation for decades. When the first patriarch and Sandra were still friends, the first patriarch had already predicted everything that would happen and started to prepare for it. How powerful and unfathomable. Tang Tian was a little excited. He felt that he had found the key to this. The position of the pillars of punishment was not at the estuary, showing that Temple's method was not to seal the estuary. If it was not the estuary, they could seal the Saint Continent. The great elder lived in seclusion, and the outside world knew very little about his personality and temper. However, Sandro had fought side by side with the great elder when he was young, and he knew that the great elder was very interested in new things. When the great elder was still young, he was already extremely interested in the most abstruse research of spirits, and had spent a lot of time on it. But Sandro had once advised him that rather than wasting time on the abstruse research of spirits, it was better to spend more time on projects that had hope of success. How many died? Mo Igu snorted. I reckon that all of them are dead. But what's the use of trapping us? Other than the Banner of Knights, what other armies do they have? Don't tell me they expect us to starve to death? Tang Tian raised his head and looked at the towering pillars of punishment, which extended deep into the sky. Sandro's calmness infected the prestigious alliance. The other patriarchs quickly calmed down and started to issue orders. The armies under them were all elites, and they knew what they needed to do at such a time. A large number of scouts were sent out like sand. Although they could not fly at high altitudes, they could fly at low altitudes without any obstruction. That is definitely an unconventional method. What exactly is it? As expected, they want to catch us all in one fell swoop. While Lu Shang's face was ashen, even Tang Tian and the rest were attracted. They were curious, can the pillars of punishment be destroyed? Since the great clan elder wanted to wipe out all the prestigious families, he definitely needed to seal the Saint Continent. To them, it was a good thing. Both parties were allies, and Tang Tian did not wish for his ally to be a useless ally. After confirming his guess, when they reached a height of 30 m, Tang Tian did not force himself, but followed the force back to the ground. The most eye-catching thing was that a military general was currently organizing his soldiers, preparing to launch a probing attack on the pillars of punishment. What is Temple trying to do? In the blink of the eye, the bodyguard's flesh was incinerated into ashes by the holy flames, as though the holy flames had eaten their fill and dispersed, and once again entered the pillars of punishment. The great clan elder is a ruthless person who views human lives as worthless grass. The moment Tang Tian left the ground, he felt a powerful aura descending from the sky, as though Tai was pressing down on him. The power that could topple mountains and overturn seas suppressed Tang Tian's entire body, leaving him with nowhere to hide. The imposing and cold aura struck straight into his heart, causing him to want to kneel down and worship it. Normally, the best way to seal a continent was to seal the estuaries. But the estuaries of the Saint Continent were too many. Furthermore, Temple had very few armies in their hands, and they were unable to seal all the estuaries. Temple had to use some special methods to seal the Saint Continent. Every time he went up, the pressure would multiply, as though the pressure was boundless. After going up a few meters, the sky above Tang Tian's head suddenly lit up with a golden light screen. The surging golden, holy flames spewed out from the pillars of punishment, transforming into a golden light screen that enveloped the sky above Tang Tian's head. He shook his head at Chia and Xin, indicating that they were unable to resist it. Behind the mask, Tang Tian's face was filled with shock. He did not know what the pillars of punishment were, but he could roughly guess that the Honorable Martial Alliance had something similar. But the scene in front of him was truly too shocking. It was difficult to judge the height of the pillars with the naked eye. They towered into the clouds, as though they were holding up the sky. Everyone below were stunned by the bloody scene in front of them. Could it be that the pillars of punishment have something special about them? The conversation between Sadra and the great clan elder flashed past Tang Tian's mind and reminded Tang Tian. The great clan elder wanted to deal with the aristocratic families and also the new prestigious families, and definitely did not use conventional methods. Conventional methods would not allow the great clan elder to achieve his goal. Be careful, Sadra said. Stay away from the pillars of punishment as much as possible. They might have offensive capabilities, and be especially careful of the holy flames. Send more people to investigate the surroundings. Temple definitely has other tricks up their sleeves. Tang Tian's ascension suddenly stopped, but he quickly continued to ascend, but at a much slower speed than before. The phenomenon in the sky and Tang Tian's attempt was clearly seen by everyone on the ground, and all of their faces changed. One of the bodyguards who boasted of his strength also followed Tang Tian and flew up, but upon ascending 10 m, his body suddenly exploded like a watermelon. The holy flames in the sky were like vultures that had seen their prey and swarmed over. Tang Tian suppressed the shock in his heart and quickly calmed down. In battle, Tang Tian was extremely calm and sharp. He carefully observed the positions of the pillars of punishment and the distance between them. Since the great clan elder did not hesitate to sacrifice the temple clan elder's life to create the pillars of punishment, then they definitely have their own unique uses. Sadra did not say anything, and only looked at the towering pillars of punishment. He had some suspicions in his heart. Where does the great clan elder's confidence come from? Why does he have such confidence? He glanced at Tang Tian. My own bodyguard did not even leap 10 m before his body exploded, but the iron-masked soldier flew at least 30 m and landed safely. How is his body so strong? The military general did not believe it, and simply pulled out his entire army to attack the pillars of punishment, but it did not affect them at all. Regardless of how berserk the energy was, once it entered the pillars of punishment, it would be devoured by the holy flames. A stern look flashed past Tang Tian's eyes. He snorted. The light aura around his body exploded out. He stepped on the air, as though he was ascending to the heavens. He ascended step by step. He had never been so nervous in battle before, and it was the first time. But it was a pity that he did not study much about the pillars of punishment. It was not only him, everyone else did not study much about it. Even in temple, no one would study it. The pillars of punishment was a method of punishment, and it was rarely used. As Tang Tian descended, the omnipresent pressure immediately disappeared without a trace. The holy flames that converged in the sky were like a school of fish that had lost their prey, and once again entered the pillars of punishment. He must have had a breakthrough on the pillars of punishment. The golden pillars of flames spat out tongues of flame. The flames were clearly powerful, but they remained silent. They were like wild beasts entrenched in the pillars of flames, quietly swallowing and spitting, watching coldly from the sidelines. But the holy chi was like an exploding wave, wreaking havoc in the surroundings. The golden holy flames swallowed silently. The gigantic pillar of flames was like a gigantic beast that could devour everything. After absorbing the attack, the holy flames that spiraled around the pillars of punishment became even stronger, and the golden light of the holy flames became even more intense. Everyone finally understood the use of the pillars of punishment. The current Saint Continent was like a huge cage, and everyone was trapped in the Saint Continent. The holy and imposing golden, holy flames looked like the dark flames of a demon in everyone's eyes. Sadra was surprised by Tang Tian's performance, but Tang Tian was also surprised by Sadra's performance. He felt as though he was in the deep sea. Every step he took was extremely difficult. The terrifying pressure was pressing down on him from all directions, and he could even hear the bones in his body creaking. His heart trembled. His body could be said to be forged from copper and iron, and was one of the most tyrannical bodies in the world. If he was in such a state, then the others would definitely be crushed into meat paste under the pressure. Thinking about that, Sadra's heart sank. Tang Tian's heart moved, and he suddenly exerted strength in his legs. Chapter 9:17. No one knew that in the depths of her heart there was an unknown struggle and fear. He had received an order from the High Command Department, and he did not find it strange, although he had been at the rear recently. But regardless of whether it was the recruitment of soldiers or the construction of the defensive line to delay MOXIN, he had completed them all beautifully and had outstanding achievements. When the last wisp of smoke dissipated into the air, everyone who witnessed the scene had their faces drained of blood. Their hearts were filled with unease, even if they knew that Temple could not wipe out all the prestigious families, but they would definitely make an example out of them. Temple held the absolute advantage. If they did not wipe out a few families, how could they intimidate the people? The various patriarchs were all praying that they would not be picked. They discussed softly on how to make Temple accept their loyalty and how to prevent their families from being wiped out. In a night, the three great generals at the front lines had an unbridgeable gap and wariness. All of the arrangements had been completed, and it was time to reap the harvest. Compared to them, Tang Tian was much calmer. although Sadra and the rest wanted to reclaim their authority from Temple, but they were still filled with fear towards Temple and the great clan elder. Tang Tian did not. In his eyes, Temple was his enemy. Although they were strong, they were not invincible, and he had never looked up to Temple. Regardless of whether it was light or darkness, it made no difference to him. "Young miss, something doesn't seem right." Xiao Man spoke softly to Chia. Her expression was strange, but her tone was uncertain. She glanced at everyone. No one seems to have noticed anything. Could it be my misconception? She was not too confident. After reporting to the master, Xie Yuan walked out of the high command department. His expression was normal, but he had some suspicions in his heart. But there were even more who agreed. "That's right. Is Temple treating us as enemies? We have always been loyal to Temple. We have never been disloyal." He did not feel any joy in his heart, but instead felt an indescribable heaviness. He knew that he would be the final victor. He knew that Temple would be reborn, but at that moment, he did not feel any joy from victory. Every cocoon of light that lost its luster meant the death of a life, and the chance to become a spirit general was lost. Although the war had not ended, but the Southern Alliance had already expanded to the entire southern region. The initially loose southern region, under the stimulation of the war, finally understood that only by uniting as one could they resist against the honorable Marshall Continent's invasion, and they all joined the Southern Alliance. The price of this victory was so great that it made him speechless. He had even met up with Tang Tian 2 days ago, and listened to Tang Tian talk about the situation of the honorable Marshall Continent. The news of the honorable Marshall Continent's internal strife was told to him by Tang Tian. Bing felt that it was a good opportunity and used the power of the Southern Alliance to spread the news. Even Go Chungwen Dao and the rest only knew about it through Bing's intentional spreading. Mace Field Trading's quietened down. Sadra and the rest could no longer care about Tang Tian. They were trying their best to gather their strength. They knew that once they were imprisoned, what awaited them would be Temple's thunderous rage. For this scheme, Temple had paid a huge price, causing everyone to be speechless. After paying such a huge price to set up this trap, no one would doubt how terrifying the killer move prepared would be. He had long become the idol of the entire southern region. Tang Tian was surprised. Xiao Ran did not have any presence beside Chia. Other than bullying Xian, she did not seem to have any other performance. Xian was even more surprised than Tang Tian. His face quickly revealed a naughty smile. If not for the young miss being there, he would have blown a whistle. With an indescribable fear, she tried her best to control her emotions and maintain a distance from the world. Even if it was Charles, she had never allowed herself to cross the line in her heart. Maybe her life was just a bubble, and she was trying to control herself to maintain it for a longer period of time. But no one would have thought that the first to discover it was not Chia or Xian, but Xiao Ran, who did not have any presence. Even the wild beasts in the forest would struggle on their deathbed. How could Temple, a colossal being, allow itself to be captured? Bing's poker face was faintly discernible. The floor beneath his feet was littered with cigarette butts. He stared at the military map on the wall, maintaining that position for a long time without moving. The pair of eyes that seemed to be able to see through the entire world in front of the military map were filled with worry. That was what Bing had always been thinking about, until Charles's sudden death made her realize how laughable her restraint was. At the start, I did not notice it, but after that, I started to worry if there was any hidden danger. Xiao Ran gradually calmed down, and her words became more organized. After that, I carefully checked on my body and realized that I seemed to have become stronger. Temple's victory was in sight, and everyone was a hero. All of the intelligent patriarchs knew that it was time to show their loyalty and to choose a side. From the moment she woke up, she felt that her life was filled with all sorts of illusions. It was as though the life that she was feeling was just a bubble that was being blown, reflecting the beautiful splendor, but there was nothing inside, and when the wind blew past, nothing would be left behind. Thinking about the scene that she had captured, the joy in her heart dissipated. She did not hate the great clan elder. When the darkness swallowed all the light, it was also the beginning of dawn. Chia encouraged her gently. Xiao Ran, don't be nervous. Regardless of whether it was an illusion or not, tell us. When the last pillar of punishment rose from the Saint Continent, the sky of the Saint Continent turned completely gold. There were no sun or clouds in the sky. Only the golden holy flames flowed wantonly, silently burning the sky. And he knew that the reason why the High Command headquarters transferred him back was not just to promote him, but because the war had entered a new stage. Just that. In the darkness, Sophie propped up her chin and stared into the distance, as though she was trying to see through the endless darkness. She did not know why it had become like that, just like how she did not know why Sacred Son Charles would suddenly leave for another world, and did not even have the time to bid farewell to her. Xiao Ran's previous slash did not produce any sound, and the sound of the wind was extremely restrained. Xiao Ran could do it normally, but it was definitely not as easy. They were hesitant and did not know what to do, and were even more worried about the future. If the aristocratic alliance won, it would be fine, but if Temple won, they would die without a burial ground. The tragic wails only stopped when the last piece of their flesh was incinerated. Bing also knew that the decisive battle between Tang Tian and Temple was nearing, and at such a crucial moment, the connection between him and Tang Tian was suddenly cut off, immediately causing Bing to sense danger. So when everyone's eyes were attracted to her, she was even more unaccustomed and became nervous. It might be my misconception. Both sides on the battlefield realized that the scales of the war had started to tilt towards the Southern Alliance, and the morale of both sides had a complete change. The Southern Alliance's morale was greatly boosted, their fear towards the honorable Marshall Continent was swept away, and they were extremely optimistic towards victory. The Southern Alliance, who was in a good situation, their reputation was like the sun in the sky. The Southern Alliance's opponent was the honorable Marshall Continent, the extremely powerful Temple, which made the Southern Alliance's victory even more convincing, and the Southern Alliance's strength was recognized by everyone. No one believed that Temple would do such a crazy thing. All of these spirit generals were picked out from 100, and all of them had gone through the cruelest selection process, and were extremely powerful. Maybe the spirit generals that were created did not belong to the world in the first place. Furthermore, he had the God Armor Army, Chia, and Xian by his side, with his own strength and Chia and Xian's intellect. He was filled with confidence. The armies on the ground were panicking. There were people who flew into the sky, but were instantly incinerated by the holy flames. The sky was completely sealed. The holy flames at the estuary became even denser. A gold grade warship attempted to rush out, but upon approaching, the ferocious gold holy flames struck the warship like the tongue of a demonic beast. The gold grade warship that was famed for its defensive capabilities only lasted for 20 seconds before transforming into a gigantic fireball. It was not the first time. When Tang Tian was in the Sin domain, their connection was cut off. At that time, he was not as worried as he was today. He developed the Southern Alliance methodically because he believed that Tang Tian would definitely be able to find the path to the Sacred Saint Galaxy. Almost all of the patriarchs were secretly rejoicing in their hearts, although they had some ambiguous actions, but they did not publicly break off relations with Temple. Since they did not publicly break off relations, Temple could not take action against them. And with so many families, Temple could not possibly massacre all of them, right? The great clan elder gazed into the distance. The last pillar of punishment soared into the sky as he remained silent. At the start, she would feel discouraged, but after a long time, She got used to it. She was used to waiting for Xin to find the problem. And with the young Mrs. Order, she would use a ferocious charge to end the battle. Bing had immediately sent out a large number of scouts to try and find out what was happening in the Saint Continent, but he knew that distant water could not quench the current thirst. He needed time. The sudden change was something that the Southern Alliance was unable to react in time. Go Chung Wendao's worries were the exact opposite. Everyone's eyes lit up. They immediately understood what Xiao Ran meant by becoming stronger. But this time, no one seems to have noticed it. Could it be my misconception? Becoming stronger? Inside the meeting hall, smoke lingered around. Everyone was startled. Even Xian, who had a mischievous look on his face, was startled. She had always felt that she had done well. What is Temple trying to do? A fat patriarch wiped his sweat and could not help but ask, "We have always listened to Temple and have never gone against their orders." But it was different this time. From Go Chung Wendao, who occupied the Shang continent, being heavily injured, to delaying Mo Xian and Chiu Su Hua, they had dug a huge pit for the honorable Marshall continent. It is too cruel. Temple's foundation was extremely deep and profound, causing people to be fearful and fearful. Bing and Temple had fought for so long, and his understanding of Temple's danger was much deeper than anyone else. Regardless of whether it was Temple's armies or great generals, they were all outstanding, reflecting that Temple's grooming of talents and the construction of armies far surpassed the other powerhouses. Any honorable Marshall continent's armies encountered attacks and resistance that far exceeded the initial phase of the war, causing them to feel as though they were in a quagmire. The war had become even more difficult, and if one were to say that it was not enough to crush their morale, then the rumors of the internal strife in the honorable Marshall continent had caused them to be disheartened. The ones who were the most affected were Chiu Su Hua and Mo Xian. The actions of the Chiu and Mo families made the two of them extremely awkward. Bing could only try his best to speculate on the possible killing techniques that Temple had, as well as how he could help Tang Tian and the rest. The battles in the Saint Continent could only rely on Tang Tian and Xie themselves, and Bing was unable to help. But on the battlefield, can I give Tang Tian some support? When many people saw the order, they immediately congratulated Xie Yu, and from the bottom of their hearts, to them, the outstanding Xie Yuan's promotion was a sure thing. Master Xie Yuan's promotion was something that everyone expected, and in the eyes of the majority of the citizens, no one in the entire Southern Alliance had contributed more than Master Xie Yu, and spirit generals do not like sunlight. I have to do something, Bing secretly decided in his heart. The sudden change made him feel extremely dangerous, and he had not felt such a feeling for a long time. The intense fear made Sadra and the rest do their best to gather their armies. Only by doing so could they feel a sense of security. He suddenly raised his head, his eyes flashing with a light aura. I think we found out what Temple's killing technique is. When the great clan elder wanted to turn the honorable Marshall banner of knights that she had personally trained into spirit generals, she was only left with sorrow. Since a long time ago, she had been worried that the great clan elder would create new spirit generals. The lives of spirit generals were gray, and they had no future. She never expected that her greatest worry would come true. It was the first time she went against the great clan elder's orders, but just like her fate and fear, it was all futile. All of the clan elders of Temple, the entire banner of knights, had become the gambling chips. How much blood and sweat did Temple spend on them to nurture them to their current state? After this battle, there will be nothing left. He did not know how many of the 5 great generals would be left. He also understood that even the prestigious families, how many years had they spent to grow to their current state, how many talents they had, how much resources they had. The ashes were the most fertile soil, and Temple would obtain a new life. The holy flames around the great clan elder surged violently. Xie Yuan was also happy. He was a pure military general and firmly believed that his home would be the battlefield. And even more so, participating in the battle was more important than anything else. But what truly allowed the Southern Alliance to take the initiative in the battlefield was the internal struggle for power in the Honorable Marshall Continent. Xie Yuan never expected that the Honorable Marshall Continent would actually erupt in internal strife at such a crucial moment. The Honorable Marshall Continent's internal strife was extremely sudden and intense. All sorts of rumors flew everywhere, causing people to be unable to catch up. The people around him could not help but look at him in disdain. He is a fence-sitter. He has always been waiting for the right price and wanted to obtain benefits from both sides. Temple's final glory actually needs a group of spirit generals to protect it. All right, maybe it is everyone's fate. The Honorable Marshall Continent's internal strife is the node of the war, the node where the Southern Alliance turned from defense to offense. That must be it. Sophie felt cold, and sorrow surfaced in her heart. She had long known that it would be like this, but so what? Even if I survive, no, how can that be counted as surviving? Sophie did not know why, but the sorrow in her heart became even denser. She could sacrifice everything for Temple. She did not lack the will to die for Temple, but she did not want to do it in such a manner. Xiao Ran was startled, but she immediately reacted and immediately turned and walked towards the Spirit General Army. Chie's Spirit General Army in the ancient battlefield had experienced countless battles, and after a long journey, only a few hundred of them were left in the Sacred Saint Galaxy. When he reported to Master Bing, he realized that Master Bing's expression had a trace of worry. Although Master Bing had concealed it well, but Xie Yuan still noticed it. Xie Yuan's heart was filled with suspicions. The situation is obviously good. Why is Master still worried? On normal days, other than protecting the young miss, her mission was to lead the assault. She was more confident in her own martial strength, but in other aspects, she knew her own standard. Needless to say about the young miss, in her heart, the young miss was an invincible god of war. Even Xian, who was usually mischievous, had an acute sense of smell on the battlefield, and his quick reaction speed, far surpassing her. After Xiao Ran explained the reason, Xian immediately inspected himself. Although he was strong, but that strength was reflected in the aspect of commanding an army to fight. His control over his own body could not compare to Xiao Ran, who was proficient in individual martial strength. Luckily for the young Miss's encouragement, she mustered some courage. I feel that my own strength has become stronger. Another light cocoon was gradually dimming. The figure inside the light cocoon was struggling with all his might, but Sophie knew that it was futile. She had already watched as more than half of the light cocoons completely lost their light auras and no longer had any signs of life. She was unable to hate the great clan elder. He was her creator, and like a father, he gave her care and love. With that said, the Zanbato in Xiao Ran's hand slashed vertically, and a figure flashed in the air. Xie Yuan was not too agitated. After the bloody battle, he had become much steadier. The blood of his comrades had soaked his metal, and it felt heavy. Yes, I don't know why, but I feel that the holy flames in the sky are very familiar. It feels very comfortable, like the feeling of basking in the sun in the past. Xiao Ran tried her best to describe the feeling, but in truth, she did not know what it felt like to bask in the sun. She had been a spirit general for a long time. Seeing Xian's expression, Xiao Ran became even more flustered. Xie Yuan could see clearly that there were no more enemies behind them, and the focus of the battle would shift to the Shang continent. This was the true reason why the highest command had called him back, since there were no more battles to be fought, and it was a waste for a military general of Xie Yuan's level to be left idle. The holy golden, holy flames burned every inch of the deck. All of the expensive and outstanding materials that were resistant to fire were as weak as paper in front of the holy flames. All of the crew members, regardless of whether they were hiding in the ship or trying to escape, were enveloped by the golden flames. Compared to the high morale of the Southern Alliance, the morale of the Honorable Marshall Continent's armies was extremely low. Chia's eyes flashed with a light aura. She suddenly said, "Xiao Ran, go check on everyone." His connection with Tang Tian had been severed. The more ferocious the beast, the more intense and ferocious its struggle would be. The aristocratic alliance had directly threatened Temple's rule, and Bing believed that since he could see it clearly, the higher-ups of Temple would definitely be able to see it clearly. Temple's counterattack would definitely be extremely ferocious. Everything would be burnt to ashes. Chapter 9:18. Everyone else found it hard to believe. They had never heard of it before. Xian did not expect Tang Tian to talk about the spirit chamber, but thinking about the relationship between Bing and Tang Tian, he understood and explained to the two of them. The spirit chamber is a building unique to the Southern Cross Army. It can create spirit generals in case of a lack of manpower. But there are many restrictions, and the spirit generals created are usually not strong and can only be used for emergencies. Tang Tian's tone became solemn. The person who thought of this method is a true genius. Ordinary holy flames are a type of radiant energy, an extremely unique type of radiant energy. I suspect that the holy flame is the true result of Temple's research. The holy flame is able to stimulate the growth of the flesh, but strangely, the clan elders' bodies are not strong because the power of the physique is used to nourish the soul. But the soul that is nourished by this method has not gone through any tempering. Xiaoren felt that it was inconceivable. How can spirit generals be produced on a large scale? What's that? Ji Zhe suddenly pointed into the distance. Her voice filled with fear. She knew that Tang Tian's intuition was extremely sharp. No one could compare to him, and he definitely had discovered something. Following Ji Zhe's finger, everyone saw a fist-sized golden, holy flame slowly floating across the rooftops and rising into the sky. The entire place was silent. Everyone was shocked by what Tang Tian had described. All of them felt a chill down their spines, and their hair stood. Every golden, holy flame was a life. Chia thought, it is as though they are being fattened and not becoming stronger. Could there be some other secret? Xian's face frowned. It is not easy to increase the strength of a spirit general. His brain was working very fast. He counted on his fingers and continued. There's a problem here. The prestigious alliance is very strong, and Temple has the absolute advantage in terms of military strength. Could it be that the great clan elder wants to use spirit generals to make up for his lack of military strength? If that's the case, the great clan elder will need to create more spirit generals. Fragments of battle spirits are also fine, Xian added, but the spirit generals that come out will be severely damaged and will be very weak. The spirit generals under Xiao Ran all had different degrees of growth. The reason why Xian did not sense it was because he was not as strong as Xiao Man, but with Xiao Man's reminder, he quickly thought deeper. Melissa burst out crying. Other than Temple, many ordinary people have trained in the holy flames. Temple said that as long as you cultivate the holy flame, you will have the opportunity to be nurtured by Temple and may work for Temple and be nurtured by Temple and be able to. It should be a lot. If there are too few of them, even if Sophie is as strong as him, he will not be able to suppress the armies that Sadra and the rest have. Chia concluded calmly. The great clan elder has grasped the method to mass-produce spirit generals. That is a reasonable deduction. The commander of the Honorable Marshal Banner of Knights, Sophie, is a spirit general. Wasn't there a rumor that Sophie was a spirit general created by the great clan elder? From the looks of it, it might be true. The great clan elder might have already grasped the method to create spirit generals. Xian spoke frankly with assurance, his expression focused. If the great clan elder is able to mass produce spirit generals, then the arrangement in front of us can be explained. These fiery pillars are not only able to seal the Saint Continent, but can also transform the Saint Continent into a battlefield suitable for spirit generals. As long as they fight in the Saint Continent, they will be able to establish an advantage, as it is their absolute home ground. The coldness in his words caused one's hair to stand. Tang Tian suddenly pointed to the pillar of punishment formed by the golden holy flames. That's it. One after another, golden flames floated across the roof. More and more golden flames floated up from more and more places, like a gigantic group of golden jellyfish swimming towards the surface of the sea. If I am not wrong, the concentration of energy in the Sacred Saint Galaxy is extremely unfavorable for the production of spirit generals. Chia's beautiful eyes flickered with a light aura. Forget about fighting spirits. There aren't even any fighting spirit fragments. If the great clan elder wants to create spirit generals, he will require sufficient materials and requires sufficient fighting spirit fragments. For some reason, everyone's mind involuntarily flashed with Tang Tian's conjecture. A bone-chilling cold intent flowed through their bodies like an electric current, causing their necks to freeze and their bodies to freeze, as though they were statues. Chia and Xiao Ran were at a loss. They had never seen a spirit hall before. Every corner of their vision was filled with gold, and they floated slowly. Spirits that had been nourished for decades were only used as fertilizer for other spirit generals. I understand now. Chia nodded her head. That also means spirit generals cannot be created out of thin air and require fighting spirit fragments or spirit cards as materials and require spirits. Chia immediately caught on to the crux of the matter. That also means the spirit hall also requires spirit cards or similar materials to create spirit generals, ordinary spirit generals. Even if there are many of them, and their strength has increased, but does the great clan elder have the confidence to guarantee victory against Sadra's army? Chia did not understand. Sadra's army is very strong. Chia's words were agreed upon by everyone. They had seen the armies of Sadra and the rest, and they were all extremely powerful. There were a few armies that were on the same level as the Chou Offense army, and that was why everyone was more optimistic about the aristocratic alliance, and not Temple. Melissa stammered with a sobbing tone. Many people have trained in holy flames. Everyone's faces were as white as paper. Other than fear in their eyes, there was only fear. Everyone's eyes turned to look at Melissa at the same time. Melissa, who had maintained her silence from the start, had a pale face. Her entire body was trembling, and the sound of her teeth chattering could be heard by everyone. Chia did not refute, and continued, "Just now, you guys said that the strength of spirit generals that are groomed like this are more ordinary, and to groom powerful spirit generals is more difficult." Everyone was stunned if Tang Tian's guess was true. No one dared to imagine it. Everyone did not understand, but for some reason, a bad premonition surfaced in their hearts at the same time. It's a large-scale manufacturing. That is a must. Xian said with a look of it as a matter of fact. The spirit hall actually transforms spirits into spirit generals. How can there be so many powerful spirits in the world? Of course, they are mostly ordinary goods. How many people were there in the Saint Continent? No one present knew the exact number, but everyone knew that the Saint Continent was the most flourishing continent in the entire honorable Marshall Continent, and also the continent with the most population. If there were people familiar with this information, they would definitely tell them that the population of the Saint Continent was 1/10 of the entire honorable Marshall Continent. No one had seen anything crueler than that. Many people, that's what I mean. Tang Tian nodded his head and said, "We all know that the divine spirit needs to be tempered to become stronger. Without going through any tempering, the spirits cannot become stronger. I found it strange the last time The Honorable Martial Banner of Knights were very powerful, but after exchanging blows, I realized that they were much weaker than I thought. But now, I understand that their spirits are used as fertilizers. The holy flames that ignite the spirits can nourish the flesh and strengthen the spirit. When the holy flames ignites the spirits that have been nourished for so many years will fuse into the holy flames. No wonder their auras are different. If I am not wrong, the holy flames of the fiery pillars are not only used to seal the Saint Continent, they also have another use, and that is to strengthen the spirit generals that have just been born. The boundless holy flames occupied every inch of space in the sky. There were so many of them that no one could count them, and no one knew how many lives would be used to nourish them. In that moment, millions of lives disappeared without a sound, transformed into a regiment of silent burning golden flames, and became fertilizers. Tang Tian thought for a moment. The last time I fought with the Honorable Martial Banner of Knights, when he escaped, his holy flames also changed from white to gold, which is very similar to the holy flames in front of us. I thought about it for a period of time, but I did not understand it until I saw Seuss's spirit start to ignite. Did I understand? Spirit generals. Temple's killing technique was actually spirit generals. It was out of Tang Tian's expectations. Xian's heart trembled. He exclaimed, "You're saying different." Chie's eyes lit up. What's different? This holy flame is strange. Tang Tian explained. I have fought with their Honorable Martial Banner of Knights in the past, and have seen their holy flames. But the holy flame I saw previously is different from this one. Xian muttered. It is not easy, but it is not impossible. Temple's research on spirits has a long history. Maybe they have long found a way to nurture battle spirit fragments. You need a very powerful spirit card to produce a powerful spirit general. Tang Tian thought about Ghost Claw and felt sad, because only a spirit with a deep obsession can produce a powerful spirit general. I once used many spirit cards, but the spirit generals that came out were all ordinary and could only move things around. You need spirit cards, Tang Tian said. If the grade of the spirit cards is higher, then you can produce a more powerful spirit general. Even further in the sky, the densely packed golden, holy flames could not be seen, as though it was a golden ocean. Everyone's entire body turned cold. They were all veterans of battles and had seen countless of corpses, blood and flesh flying everywhere. They initially thought that there was no one in the world that could cause them to be afraid of such a cruel scene. But the scene in front of them caused their hearts to tremble involuntarily. They wouldn't dare to be so reckless, right? Even Xian, who was usually bold, was stuttering. Create spirit generals? Tang Tian's eyes lit up and immediately said, Spirit Hall. Spirit Hall can create spirit generals. They watched in a daze. It was an unforgettable scene for them. Melissa had completely lost control of her emotions. Tears flowed down her face. She could not speak anymore and squatted down on the ground, crying bitterly. Chia was also at a loss and muttered, so scary. No one dared to continue thinking about it. The divine and majestic gold color was extremely sinister and sinister. It did not have any warmth and only contained endless death. That's right. Xian was extremely certain. No one was clearer than him about Spirit Hall. From a certain perspective, spirits are a type of life. No one can create life out of thin air. Everyone was startled. They did not understand. Chapter 919. The soldiers' eyes were filled with heartache, and even their wiping motions became softer. In their hearts, their swords were their closest companions, accompanying them day and night. What's wrong with Master? Everyone was confused. If it was said that encountering the Southern Cross Army caught Mu Ji-xiao off guard and messed up his plans, causing him to be in a passive state. But even in such a predicament, he did not lose his rationality and judgment. They were treasures, and their greatest characteristic was their sturdiness. They could endure hundreds of millions of high-intensity attacks without being damaged. In the history of the army, there had never been a soldier whose swords were damaged due to training too diligently. Mu Jixia threw the problem of the Wei Yiguan continent to the back of his mind. He had to consider his own situation. Pay attention to protecting the flanks. We suffered the last time because we did not protect the flanks properly. Whatever the reason is, it's not that we did not pay enough attention to the flanks, but that we were disconnected. I have just reviewed the situation. We were disconnected for about 6 seconds. If it was in the past, it would not be considered a flaw, but our enemies are experts. 6 seconds of weakness is enough for them to launch an attack. They are proficient in charging, and that is what we must avoid. Remember, once the battle starts, do not give them the chance to charge, and focus on tangling. Do your best to slow down the pace of the battle. They are more proficient in fast-paced battles. Isn't that temple's most precious material? Isn't it the most advanced technology? How did we get injured? Everyone gasped for breath. They leaned on the rocks to rest and quietly recovered their strength. The intensity of the battle and the strength of the enemy had transformed into a heavy pressure that caused them to be unable to breathe, but the determination on their faces did not diminish. Southern Cross Army, a name that they are unfamiliar with. Master said that this army belongs to the Southern Alliance. The soldiers had never heard of the Southern Cross Army, but they knew about the Southern Alliance. Although they had been stationed in the Wei Yiguan continent for a long time and did not join the Southern Expedition, but they were familiar with the Southern Alliance. The man who was as tough as steel fell to the ground with blood dripping from his eyes. He gathered the soldiers under his command and held a short pre-war meeting. According to the frequency of attacks for the past few days, the enemy would not give him the chance to breathe, and the next wave of attacks would arrive soon. That was something that Mu Jixia felt was inconceivable. His army's training was extremely harsh, and their tenacity was extremely rare, something that he was proud of. But on this point, the enemy was still stronger than them. Mu Jixia suddenly realized that he didn't know what to do. He woke up with a start. His back was covered in a layer of sweat. He knew that this was because he was completely suppressed by his opponent, causing his mentality to be unbalanced. The Lord's strange behavior attracted everyone's attention. They followed his gaze, but did not discover anything. The barbarian army was large in number and aggressive, but Mu Jixia was actually not too worried. He was usually very strict with his training, and before he set off, he had warned the defending generals to be even more careful. The layout of the Wei Yiguan continent was personally created by Mu Jixia, and he knew how sturdy it was. They could not be wasted in the savage continent. The strength of the Southern Cross Army far exceeded his expectations. He had never thought that his own army would suffer such a huge loss. What was disadvantageous to him was that they were in the savage continent, and every tribe here was naturally hostile towards them, while the Southern Cross Army was in a completely opposite situation. Mu Jixia did not speak quickly. He was calm and emotionless, as if he was narrating something that had nothing to do with him. All the setbacks and difficulties before him were just tempering, nothing more. His white hair was turning snow white at a speed visible to the naked eye. He had never thought that there would actually be someone in the world who could completely suppress him, causing his heart to lose control. It was a sign of danger. It meant that his confidence was slowly slipping away. He was on guard. Mu Jixia's expression was cold and stern, like a rock that had been eroded by the wind. The surface was mottled, but the inside was as tough as steel. It was the expression that the soldiers were most familiar with. It did not have much warmth, and would always remind people of the Wei Yiguan continent's perpetual snowstorm and the strict military discipline. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. It was the first time they saw panic in the master's eyes. They saw fear, they saw the loss of what to do, and they saw the emptiness after despair. What should I do? He laughed bitterly in his heart. Mu Jia used all sorts of methods to try and escape from the Southern Cross Army's pursuit. But the opponent's general was extremely experienced. His disguise and bait did not succeed even once. The opponent was always able to see through his intentions, and every time that happened, he would feel as if he was stripped naked and had nowhere to hide under the sun. His eyes regained clarity. He was originally a person with a strong will, and the setback did not cause him to lose his courage. Mu Jia, who was as stiff as a wooden statue, slowly turned his head and looked into the distance. Suddenly, without any warning, Mu Jia seemed to have been struck by lightning. His voice abruptly stopped. He was dumbstruck. He had a misconception that the opponent was like an old fox that had gone through tens of thousands of battles and relied on his rich experience. Mu Jia was extremely depressed about his misconception. Regardless of whether it was the Sacred Saint Galaxy or Heaven's Road, they had not fought for a long time. So how could such an old monster appear? All right, that is already news from a long time ago, and no one knows what the current situation is like. Their connection with Temple had long been severed, and they were isolated and helpless in the savage continent. Just like before, they had never thought that there would truly be an army as strong as them, that there would truly be a military general that possessed willpower and strength that was not inferior to their master. Crimson tears of blood flowed down from his lifeless eyes. It had to be admitted that they were overly optimistic before they left, and the biggest variable was the Southern Cross Army. No one had ever thought that in the desolate, savage continent they would actually meet an army from the Southern Alliance. Furthermore, it was a mechanical army, and one that was so powerful. The only thing that made Mu Jia feel gratified was that under the immense pressure, their growth was equally astonishing. Following the continuous tempering, their growth was extremely fast, although they were still at a disadvantage, but their confidence in returning to Temple had increased. All of them were elites that were picked out from 10,000, and the strict Mu Jia had never slacked off on their training, allowing them to build up a solid foundation. With Jiaya's defense, the Wei Yiguan continent was unbreakable. In the black market outside, Mu Jixia's army's standard long sword was priceless and was a treasure that countless people yearned for. They knew that their master would definitely bring them back to Temple, Saint Continent. Why? At the start, every time they ended a battle, they would wail in disbelief. But as the number of battles increased, their understanding of the enemy grew, and they were no longer surprised. Their battle plans had long failed. Not only did they not find the goddess of war, they were entangled by the Southern Cross Army. They did not even dare to return from the original path. As long as the star door to the Wei Yiguan continent was exposed, the Wei Yiguan continent would immediately become extremely dangerous. Furthermore, the Southern Cross Army was right behind them, and the Southern Cross Army would not even give them the chance to reorganize and defend. They had never thought that there would be a day when their closest and most trusted comrade would be injured, but it gave them a sense of security. That was what made them the most suspicious. The Southern Alliance has such a powerful army. How can they be forced to retreat on the battlefield? Although he was completely suppressed, but he bitterly held on, and at the same time caused the enemy to suffer injuries and deaths. If they lost their confidence, then the situation that they were bitterly holding on would instantly crumble. But at that moment, the swords in their hands were filled with scars, and tiny nicks could be seen everywhere. He had to bring his army back. It was not only because he viewed every single soldier of the army as his own nephew, nor was it because he had built up the army with his own hands. It was because Temple needed them, needed Mu Jixia's army. They were like a piece of unpolished jade, and the intense battles and powerful enemies were the best whetstones for them. They started to release their radiance. No matter how powerful the enemy was, they were no longer afraid. The generals and soldiers listened attentively. They would hold such a meeting before every battle. They were able to know how they lost the previous time, where they did not do well, etc., and that was the secret to their rapid growth. But is the Southern Alliance truly that powerful? Mu Xia tragically realized that regardless of whether it was tactics or fighting capabilities, the enemy was stronger than him. Jia, you should have already taken over the Wei Yi Guan continent. Mu Xia estimated the time in his mind and came to that conclusion. He still had a deep impression of the dazzling cross-light aura, and the greatest casualty was at that time. At the start, they were battered and exhausted and suffered a shocking number of casualties. But as time passed, they were still battered and exhausted, but they were able to organize and counterattack occasionally, and their casualties were much smaller than before. If the Southern Cross Army was not part of the Southern Alliance, Mu Xia would feel that the battle was not a bad thing. As long as they persevered for a period of time, Temple would definitely send reinforcements, and Mu Xia knew that it would be Jia even if he closed his eyes. Who else is more proficient in defense than Jia? What place is more suitable than the Wei Yi Guan continent for Jia's battlefield? When their physical strength gradually recovered, they started to clean their swords. Due to Mu Xia's influence, the soldiers of the army loved the army's standard swords the most. Even their designs were the same. But they were the direct subordinates of the #1 great general. And although their designs were standard swords, but due to the large amount of rare and precious materials and Temple's most advanced smelting and forging techniques, the cost was extremely high. They raised their heads and listened to their master's every word. They knew that they would definitely defeat the Southern Cross Army in the end, just like how the Honorable Marshall Continent would defeat the Southern Alliance in the end. His deep eyes were ashen, as though all of his life force had been sucked away. He no longer had the sharp aura and looked like a withered old man. Chapter 9:20. Mu Xia suddenly thought about the first day he entered Temple. He was only 12 years old, and the great clan elder at that time was not the current great clan elder. It was a sunny day, and the clan elder had a warm smile on his face. After Sophie was created, her performance was extremely outstanding. Her learning ability was strong, and she grew very quickly. Right at that time, another important result appeared. Temple realized that holy flames could be absorbed by spirit generals in a unique way. This method can raise the strength of spirit generals in a short period of time. Temple did not do it for Sophie. As though he could hear the fear in their hearts, Mu Xia's cold and emotionless heart crushed the last bit of hope in their hearts. Yes, it is exactly what you think. Holy flames? Old Tang and the old commander looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. He is the great clan elder. Mu Xia could feel the holy flames flowing in his body and said indifferently, thus Temple started to promote the holy flames. You should remember that at that time, Temple started to formulate a series of plans. This plan started with the intention of creating spirit generals. The plan did not go smoothly, but after overcoming many difficulties, they succeeded. They created the first powerful spirit general, the commander of the Banner of Knights, Sophie. Mu Xia's eyes were filled with blood, but he could still sense the commotion of the soldiers around him. He sighed. I am afraid that the Saint Continent is now a living hell. We surrender, and I will tell you everything that I know. Please do not harm my soldiers. I beg of you. Everyone listened attentively. The commotion gradually quietened down, and everyone turned to look at Mu Xia. At that moment, no one felt agitated. Their entire bodies were cold, bone-chilling cold. There was only one person who could give them an answer, and that was the master in front of them. Sorrow enveloped the entire camp. Seeing their respected opponent fall, the two of them did not feel any joy of victory. Temple has always had a plan. Mu Jixia's voice was faintly discernible. Like the wind, he sighed. This plan originated from Temple's research on spirit generals. His gaze was complicated. That's right, spirit generals have a long lifespan. But it is a long time, suffering year after year, with no end in sight. How many people can understand the sorrow? Watching one's family and friends grow old and die in front of one's eyes. That boundless loneliness was more painful than any energy corrosion. When time is so long that even the people you love deeply are forgotten, even the most beautiful memories are annihilated, and even your beliefs and ideals are decayed and disappeared, you are still floating alone in this world. How sad is that? The rumbling of the mechanical puppets came closer and closer. Based on their experience over the past few days, they should hide, they should form a defensive line, and they should protect their flanks against the enemy's attack. They were already able to calmly face the surging bronze flood, but no one moved. It was as if they hadn't heard. A look of shock appeared on Old Tang's face. Not only did Mu Jixia's vitality not decline, but it was also abnormally vigorous, like a raging flame in the night. What caused Mu Jixia's body to rapidly deteriorate was precisely this incomparably exuberant life force. It was constantly burning and eroding Mu Jixia's flesh. Many soldiers clutched their heads in disbelief. Temple was their faith, and was incomparably sacred in their hearts. If these words were not spoken by Mu Jixia, whom they usually trusted the most, they would have torn him to pieces. "Thank you." Mu Jixia's voice was as soft as a mosquito, but his expression remained calm. "Please do not waste your time on me." "Impossible. How can Temple do this?" Suddenly, the soldiers thought about Temple's judgment. Does Temple think that Master is not loyal enough, or do they think that Master is not doing well and is being punished? The soldiers became agitated. They had followed the Master alone and fought with their lives on the line. How can Temple judge Master so unfairly? They carefully walked past the grieving soldiers and saw Mu Jixia lying on the ground with bloodstains in his eyes, his body sparkling and translucent like white jade. They were all shocked. They finally understood why the soldiers did not resist at all. Mu Jixia was the soul of the army, and if anything were to happen to him, the army would no longer be the number one army under the heavens. The plan was flawless. Mu Jixia spoke as though he was dreaming. In a short period of time, Sophie's strength increased by over 10 times and became the strongest martial artist in Temple. But there was a problem. Sophie's strength increased to a certain level and reached a bottleneck, and absorbing the holy flames did not have any effect. After Temple's research, they realized that Sophie's strength had already reached a critical point, and to break through, the amount of holy flames he absorbed was an astronomical figure. The Master's blood-stained face revealed a strange, holy aura. The skin on his face seemed to be transparent, and they could even see the white holy flames flowing beneath his skin. "That's holy flames," Mu Jixia said softly. "Eternal life." Everyone was shocked by Mu Jixia's words. Even the soldiers who were originally excited seemed to have been immobilized. They did not understand why the Master would suddenly mention the unrelated Saint Continent. Furthermore, the Saint Continent was where Temple was, and had many armies. The Honorable Martial Continent had the tightest defense. How could it be a living hell? But Mu Jixia continued to defend against their attacks tenaciously, and continued to grow, causing the old commander and the rest to feel the immense pressure. Steel like willpower, strict discipline, tenacious fighting spirit, adept fighting techniques, unparalleled synchronization rate. They truly lived up to their name as the number one army under the heavens. It was not the victory they wanted. When the old commander and Old Tang arrived, they looked at each other. Mu Jixia sighed. After persevering for a long time, adding the information that Heaven's Road Temple had continuously sent over, Temple's research on spirits finally had a huge breakthrough. One of the most important results was that they found a way to overcome the energy corrosion. That means that spirit generals have a long lifespan and are practically immortal. The two of them had solemn expressions without any smiles. The two of them had praised Mu Jixia's tenacity countless of times, and praised the tenacity of the soldiers who were in dire straits countless of times. At the start, they were still able to easily defeat Mu Jixia's army, but very quickly Mu Jixia's army became more and more difficult to deal with, and brought more and more casualties. Mu Jixia was a respectable opponent, and the soldiers were respectable soldiers. It was dead silence. The piercing pain in his eyes pulled him back from his memories, the cruel darkness, the surging holy flames in his body, and even the familiar holy aura was bone-piercing. No matter how knowledgeable old Tang was, he had never seen such a strange thing before. How can it be holy flames? Mu Jixia's body looked extremely strange. His hair was as white as silver, and his hands that were originally covered in calluses had patches of white light. A faint white light shone out from his body, revealing his flesh and skin. His entire body seemed to be circulating with white light, as though he was enveloped in a layer of light. The soldiers around him suddenly went into an uproar. They raised their heads, their faces filled with shock and disbelief. The holy flame was something they were most familiar with, and they had to train in it every day. How could such a terrifying scene be caused by the holy flame? In their hearts, the holy flame was something that gave them strength and courage. It could heal their wounds. It could make them stronger. And it was a symbol of their devotion. Everyone held their breaths. They had a premonition that what Mu Jixia was about to say would definitely be an earth-shattering secret. Temple's research on spirits was famous. Much less them. Even a 10-year-old child knew that Temple's research on spirits was the highest standard in the Sacred Saint galaxy. Old Tang and the old commander did not understand either. They knew about the holy flame. They knew about the Saint continent, but they could not link the two together. Relax. We are not people who kill indiscriminately. The old commander said. They did not meet with any resistance, and no one even looked at them. The old commander and old Tang's faces became gloomy. They were unable to believe that the soldiers in front of them, who looked like beggars, were actually the elites of the First Army, and were actually able to fight with them to the end, causing them to suffer heavy casualties. The surroundings quietened down. That sentence struck them like a bolt of lightning, causing a terrifying guess to surface in their minds. It can't be. It can't be. How could Temple do that? Old Tang squatted down and checked on Mu Jixia with a serious expression. The soldiers automatically surrounded Mu Jixia. Some of them were sobbing, some of them were wiping their tears mixed with the mud, covering their faces. Their eyes were blank, as though their souls had been extracted. They were in a daze, as though they were walking corpses. Hearing that, the old commander roughly understood. Transforming a person into a spirit general is a form of eternal life. Although Sophie succeeded, she did not have any memories. How to transform into a spirit general while maintaining her memories became the newest problem. This problem did not stump Temple and was quickly completed, but it was something that went against the laws of nature and had an extremely high risk. The success rate of transforming into a spirit general was extremely low. The first person to attempt it was an ambitious man. He was determined to dedicate his long life to Temple. He firmly believed that as long as he had enough time, he would be able to rebuild a brand new temple, a clean and flawless temple. For this dream, he was willing to take the risk, even if he had to give up his life, regardless of whether it was his or someone else's. Has Temple gone crazy? There was a sudden uproar in the silence. TT, this is too inhumane. What's going on? The soldiers were overwhelmed with shock, so the rumors regarding Commander Sophie were actually true. Both parties had fought for so long and could be said to appreciate each other. The reason why Mu Jixia was completely suppressed by the Southern Cross Army was not because he was not strong enough, but because he was alone and had to face the Southern Cross Army and was surrounded by dangers. Not only did they have to face the Southern Cross Army, they also had to defend against the savage tribes. On the other hand, it was because of his experience. Mu Jixia had commanded the army for over 10 years and had never been through the baptism of war compared to the old commander, who had been fighting for his entire life and was an old monster that had been baptized in wars. How could he compare? He chuckled in his heart, bringing along the bitterness and loneliness of the years. The position of the Honorable Marshal Banner of Knights was extraordinary, and Commander Sophie, who was in charge of the Honorable Marshal Banner of Knights, held an extremely high position in everyone's hearts. The premonition in their hearts became even stronger, a secret that involved so many important figures. How could it be an ordinary secret? Chapter 9:21. All of the frenzied soldiers of Mu Jixia's army stopped. As though they were immobilized, they stared blankly at the empty holy flames. The seeds they planted in my body have activated. I can feel that the Saint Continent is no longer here. Our family. Mu Jixia laughed bitterly. He felt that he was truly foolish for the sake of serving temple. He had even sacrificed his own family. The holy flames completely swallowed Mu Jixia, causing the holy flames to become silent. Old Tang and the old commander revealed looks of pity. The cruel reality, the tragic scene, even they who had hearts of stone could not accept it, especially when they heard the soldiers shouting out the names of their children and family and the heart-wrenching wails. They could not help but turn their heads. His heart was filled with regret. He regretted joining temple, regretted fighting for temple, regretted implicating his family. Many of their faces were filled with shock and shock. They all knew that the great clan elder was enveloped in holy flames, but none of them thought that there were so many secrets. He is a terrifying opponent. The great clan elder is cold-blooded. He treats human lives like grass, crazy and unreasonable, but he is him. You can despise him, but you can never look down on him. You can dislike him, but you can never look down on him. Mu Jixia remained silent. He opened his mouth. His heart felt like it was being stabbed, but nothing came out. Master, all of the soldiers of Mu Jixia's army knelt down with pleading looks on their faces. They could accept dying on the battlefield and throwing their corpses into the wilderness. That was their duty, and they did not cower in the slightest. But their families had become temple's fertilizer, and their hearts were shrouded in endless sorrow and despair. He retracted his disapproval, retracted his ridicule towards the great clan elder's desire for eternal life, because he asked himself, what if it was me? They could empathize with him. They were all soldiers who fought on the battlefield, and felt it deeply. The heart-wrenching wails came out. The soldiers who climbed up the mechanical puppets, their bodies covered in smoke and tattered clothes, the madness on their bodies instantly disappeared. They wailed and cried. They allowed their bodies to fall down from the mechanical puppets and into the ground. Have you all forgotten Mu Jixia's dying wish? Have you all forgotten the blood feud that you bear? Have you all forgotten who the main culprit is? The holy flames were ferocious, and in the blink of an eye, Mu Jixia was completely incinerated, leaving nothing behind. He was the one who had harmed everyone. It was as if he had seen his own family members turn into a regiment of pale, white, holy flames, and then being swallowed by a figure. Revenge! 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 Hot blood flowed down his cheeks slowly. The soldiers raised their heads blankly. Forget about being able to lead the Southern Cross Army forever. As long as they could win the war, he would not hesitate. It was not only him, many people in the army could do it. Unfortunately, He couldn't take revenge. Mu Jixia's voice trembled with endless sorrow. He didn't know why he still had the strength to say these words. All of the soldiers were stunned. They frantically pounced towards the holy flame, wanting to drag Mu Jixia out. The air seemed to freeze and time seemed to stop. The soldiers did not even dare to breathe as they looked at Mu Jixia with pale faces. The regiment commander looked around with a murderous aura. Revenge! 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 It's hopeless, Mu Jixia said calmly. He wouldn't make such a low-level mistake. Bang! An unprecedented rage surged in the hearts of the Southern Cross Army soldiers. Even if they were enemies in the past, but at that moment, they only felt a common hatred for the enemy and wanted nothing more than to turn the great clan elder into meat paste. The regiment commander knew that Mu Jixia was talking about the great clan elder. He had heard of the news by chance, but did not place it in his heart, because he felt that as long as the great clan elder still had a trace of rationality, he would definitely not carry out the plan. The Saint Continent was the foundation of Temple, and the citizens that lived there were either devout believers or the family members of Temple's core members. By doing this, isn't Temple digging their own foundation? Who would dare to follow Temple if they were to kill the family members of their core members? Who would follow them? The regiment commander, Old Tang, and the rest reacted quickly and immediately stopped the soldiers who had lost control of their emotions. The frenzied soldiers of Mu Jixia's army disregarded everything. They begged and bit the mechanical puppets, punching and kicking them. Their faces were covered in tears. No. The soldier was at a loss. His mind was blank, and he spoke incoherently. That can't be. We are fighting for Temple. We are people of Temple. Why would Temple take action against our family? He did it. Mu Jixia's voice seemed to be tainted with the smell of holy flames. It carried a sense of authority, which was a familiar feeling to everyone. But at that moment, even Mu Jixia was filled with hatred and disgust. The holy flames that flowed beneath his skin became even more lively. Everyone was attracted by Mu Jixia's words, and no one noticed that the bones of his fingers were enveloped by the holy flames and were silently melting. Mu Jixia was oblivious. There was only a 10% chance of success, but he succeeded. He became the strongest clan elder in Temple, and everyone has to bow down to him. And his orders are the will of Temple. To prevent others from knowing that he has become a spirit general, he lived in seclusion and used the holy flames to envelop himself. Everyone thought that the great clan elder used a special method to train in the holy flames, but no one guessed that beneath the holy flames was a spirit general. I am stupid. This is too deranged. The regiment commander was silent. Me? That's another problem. Mu Jixia smiled bitterly and desolately. The white light shone through the wrinkles on his weathered face. It looked extremely terrifying and strange. The great elder soon found out that even if he had an endless lifespan, he would not be able to realize his great ambition by himself. He needed more like-minded people. I was not born in a prestigious family, so I was naturally sought out, but I rejected them. I do not wish to become a spirit general. I am destined to dedicate my life to Temple, but I still wish to rest after death. The long years will make me fearful. The great clan elder did not punish me, but to prevent the secret from leaking out, he left something in my body. That thing is acting up now. Do not hurt them. Old Tang could not bear to watch, and reminded the soldiers under him. Life was always precious, with the warm sunlight, the alluring heartbeat, and the connection between each other. Time was always heartless, cold, and lonely, so long that it was terrifying. But there were always some things, some ideals that could allow you to overcome the yearning for life, to overcome the fear of time, and you would not hesitate to give up everything and throw yourself into its embrace. These soldiers were fighting alone at the front lines, fighting for Temple, but Temple had harmed their families. Old Tang looked at Mu Jixia. The light aura of holy flames seemed to be spewing out from Mu Jixia's body. He asked, "Then what's going on with you now?" Suddenly, a soldier asked anxiously. Beside him, the other soldiers all had anxious looks on their faces. Their families were all in the same continent, and they had a bad premonition. Their faces were buried in the soil, their hands grabbed onto the dust. They cried out the names of their families, cried out Mu Jixia's name. They wanted to grab onto something, but could not grab onto anything. They hammered their heads. They curled up into a ball. They were helpless and in despair. Surging holy flames surged out from his body. In the blink of the eye, he had become a flaming man, the white holy flames crackling. Mu Jixia felt his body becoming lighter and lighter. The pain of his soul burning caused his consciousness to become more and more blurry. He mustered his last bit of strength and shouted while trembling. A crazy man who did not care about his own life, a cold-blooded man who did not care about the lives of others, who did not care about anything on the battlefield for the sake of victory. He was willing to do anything. The other soldiers had their hands on their heads. Their eyes were at a loss, and some of their eyes started to reveal fear and despair. "Master, I beg you." The soldier knelt on the ground and kowtowed, and begged, "Master, seeing that this lowly one has followed you for so long, please tell us." All of their beliefs and ideals had collapsed, and then they found out that their families were all dead and watched as their most respected boss was burned to ashes in front of them. All of these men who had gone through countless trials and tribulations and had never been defeated in battle had completely collapsed at that moment. All of the soldiers and military generals were dumbstruck by this shocking secret. That's right, the content had completely exceeded their imaginations, and they were shocked by too many things. And then they will use the holy flames of the entire Saint Continent to evolve. Even the old commander and old Tang were shocked. Even though they were listening to Mu Jixia's narration, they could still hear the craziness of the great clan elder and his fanaticism towards Temple. The old commander had become a spirit general after his own death, but he never thought that the great clan elder would voluntarily become a spirit general for the sake of rebuilding Temple. He took a deep breath and suddenly roared, "All of you, shut up!" The old commander's roar could be heard by the entire field, and the empty eyes of the soldiers of Mu Jixia's army started to have light auras converge. Although the great clan elder was crazy, but he was definitely an extremely intelligent man, and would definitely not do such a foolish thing. "Can we be saved?" The old commander asked. Mu Jixia was a respectable opponent, and he did not wish for Mu Jixia to die, to give up his own life, to take such a huge risk for Temple. That was probably the most cruel thing in the world. Mu Jixia laughed bitterly. "Saint Continent, there is no more Saint Continent. I know they have a plan. I do not know the details, but I have a rough idea. Once Temple reaches the final juncture, they will disregard everything and transform into spirit generals. And then..." Everyone in the Southern Cross Army was silent. They allowed the enemy soldiers to climb onto their mechanical puppets and bite them. As long as they could stop them, they would feel extremely sad. "Saint Continent, what's wrong with Saint Continent? Master, what's wrong with Saint Continent that you mentioned just now?" The commander was an old-fashioned person. In his opinion, a hero like Mu Jixia should die on the battlefield and not in the dark of politics and schemes. The old commander looked at the elite soldiers. Their eyes were empty, and they wailed incessantly, his heart feeling extremely sad. It shouldn't be like this. These iron men forged from blood and fire shouldn't be like this. Chapter 9:22. The only thing that made him feel more at ease was the great clan elder's feelings and sincerity towards Temple, which was not fake at all. Snow City which used to be bustling with activity, was now deathly silent. There were no wails, no sounds, and it was like a ghost city. But at a time like this, every bit of strength became very important. Every holy flame was a set of bones. In everyone's eyes, the first elder was mysterious, authoritative, wise, and omnipotent. However, Jia, you keenly sensed the great elder's hidden madness. "I don't know." The subordinate rushed over at full speed without resting and spoke with a hoarse voice. "It's the holy flame, the golden holy flame." All the estuaries were blocked by the holy flames. Some people tried to barge in, but they were all burned to ashes. Everyone's faces became even more serious. Temple's moves were indeed linked together. They did not give anyone any chance. The holy flames converted the drifting energy in the air into radiant energy. Not only did it weaken the enemy, it could also strengthen oneself, killing two birds with one stone. If they could break the shackles of the pillars of punishment, they would be able to fly as well, which would have a profound effect on the battle. The God Armor Army was doing their best to maintain the protective barrier, and were completely reduced to manual labor. However, this could not be helped. Without the protection of the energy shield, everyone was in danger. Holy flames could strengthen spirit generals. That was the easiest guess. The Grand Alliance's move at this critical juncture would have a huge impact on the Southern Expedition. It might even cause the Southern Expedition to suffer a crushing defeat. Jia, you could not help but sigh softly. In the eyes of ordinary people, the alliance of the aristocratic families did not care about the big picture. But even Jia, you could see that the aristocratic families had no other choice. Once they won the Southern Expedition, the great elder would use the momentum of victory to purge the aristocratic families at the first instant. No one could guarantee that Temple would place all their bets on the spirit generals, but no one doubted it. Tang Tian also displayed his decisiveness without hesitation. He placed all his chips on the spirit general. Jia, you suddenly thought of something that Muji Xia had once told him, and the blood drained from his face in an instant. He knew that the conflict between Temple and the prestigious families had been going on for a long time. But to him, the honorable Marshall Continent was vast, and both sides could coexist. In the worst-case scenario, they could expand outwards like the Southern Expedition. Compared to internal strife, he felt that war was much simpler. He also knew that he was too naive in this aspect, so he never liked to get involved. Moreover, he knew that no matter which side won, they would not make things difficult for him. After all, with his level and qualifications, he might not be able to become a direct descendant, but it would definitely not be a problem for him to make a living. Tang Tian carefully dodged the holy flames floating around him and arrived at the side of the pillar of punishment. Their survival instinct made them struggle with all their might. They were constantly trying all kinds of methods to find a chance of survival. But as long as they touched the holy flames, they would be ignited like candles. Once they were ignited, they would not be able to extinguish the holy flame no matter what they did. And the holy flame would only end when the soul was completely incinerated. Jia, you only took a glance before retracting her gaze. Since holy flame Tang Tian could not help, he shifted his attention to another crucial point, which was to study the pillars of punishment. Not only could the pillars of punishment seal the entire Saint Continent, they could also seal the sky, preventing people from flying. In a battle, whether or not one could fly was crucial. Being unable to fly meant that they were at a disadvantage right from the start, and it was a very big disadvantage. The enemy could completely look down from above and unleash a barrage of attacks on them. A subordinate walked to his side and spoke softly. "Master, the Saint Continent has suddenly been sealed." Jia did not understand. Since when did Temple and the prestigious families reach such a state of irreconcilable enmity? When he said the last sentence, he thought about the terrifying scene, and his voice started to tremble. They easily activated their energy barriers, but after a while, they started to feel uncomfortable. The prestigious families were already in chaos. They all trained in the inheritances of their families and did not train in holy flames. However, no matter who it was, when placed in this sea of holy flames, they would feel how insignificant they were, how insignificant their lives were, and how fearful they were. Jia knew the inside story. Fortunately, although Jizé and the rest did not use their energy barriers much, but they were gradually getting used to the high energy concentration environment and knew how to use law threads. When he thought about what Mu Jixia had told him, he became even more worried. His only relative was killed, and even the great clan elder himself. The current Saint Continent was already in chaos. Tang Tian and the rest were trying their best, but they were different from the other survivors as they were spirit generals. Understanding Temple's intentions did not mean that they would be able to escape alive. The atmosphere was extremely tense. Everyone knew that if they were not able to find a way before the enemy grew stronger, they would be in true danger. Only around Mace Field Tradings had a sliver of hope. Sima Xiao clenched his teeth. He summoned Magatama and joined the ranks of breaking the holy flames. Magatama's aura was gentle and feminine, and was the complete opposite of the holy flame's aura of light, causing Magatama to instinctively fear the holy flames. Tang Tian could not help but exclaim out. The unique undulation made him feel a trace of familiarity, as though he had seen it somewhere before. Tang Tian racked his brains and tried his best to recall where he had seen it before. Magatama's glance was like a knife cutting into Sima Zhao's heart. He was extremely upset. He bit his lips tightly and tried his best not to cry. But to Jia, the stupidest thing that the prestigious families had ever done was to assassinate sacred son Charles. Just like how Temple had always spread that Sophie was created by the great clan elder, there was another rumor that was widely known, and that was that sacred son Charles was the great clan elder's illegitimate son. But this time, he felt that the prestigious families were too much. But at such a time, every bit of strength was a good thing. Wait a minute. Gold holy flames. Jia's first thought was of the great clan elder. In Temple, only the great clan elder was able to train the holy flames to the gold level. Xiao, Ran, and Xian were carefully sensing the holy flames. Jia firmly believed that a person would always have something to hold them back in the world, and people without anything to hold them back would easily do crazy and unreasonable things. And if the other party was a strong martial artist or held supreme authority, it would be a disaster. Thinking about the great clan elder, Jia could only laugh bitterly. There were many estuaries in the Saint Continent, and to seal the Saint Continent, they could only rely on a large fleet. Although the army outside looked terrifying, the barbarians displayed astonishing physiques. They were not afraid of the cold and acted as though they were fine in the snow. But Jia did not care about it, no matter how many barbarians there were. As long as the Wei Yiguan continent was in his hands, he had absolute confidence that he could keep the barbarians out. The spirit generals under Xiao Ran had low intelligence, although they could understand orders, but to ask them to try and comprehend it themselves was like playing the lute to a cow. Only Xiao Ran and Xian could decipher the secret of the holy flame. They did not know that the prestigious family's alliance had assassinated sacred son Charles, but from then on, the great clan elder would definitely not compromise with them. As they neared the fiery pillar, the sacred and solemn aura unique to the holy flame became much weaker, and replacing it was a rather unique aura undulation. The boundless army tents stretched endlessly. The barbarian army's tents were crudely made. They were connected together, and from afar, they looked like moss on the snow plains. The thick, golden, fiery pillar pierced through the clouds, and when they neared it, they could feel its height. When he was in the Scorpio constellation, Magatama had helped him to become the Scorpio King, but that was because Magatama was just a tool in his heart, a useful tool. But after coming to the Sin domain, Magatama became even more intelligent, and he and Magatama depended on each other, and their relationship had long changed. For Temple to spend so much effort and even sacrifice so many lives, the Holy Flame definitely played an irreplaceable role in their plans. Fortunately, the energy barrier was still effective, the might of the golden Holy Flame was astonishing, and every single flame consumed a large amount of energy. Seeing the boundless Holy Flame, everyone's face turned ashen, and despair rose in their hearts. The only thing that made them feel fortunate was that no one was controlling the holy flames. They floated aimlessly in the air, and the energy barrier could still hold on for a period of time, allowing them to retain a sliver of hope. He had a premonition that this was the breakthrough point. It's being sealed. Jaya's heart jumped. Who is sealing the fleet? He also spoke softly. Who sealed the fleet? The energy density is dropping. Ji-Zhe shouted out, "That's not right. The holy flame is converting the other attributed energy into radiant energy." He was worried about the situation in the Saint Continent. He had an indifferent personality and did not like to fight for power, although he was from a prestigious family, but it was just a small prestigious family. The temperament of the family was the same as him. They were low profile and reserved. They lived quietly and did not cause any trouble for him. Quiet people would always be able to notice some unnoticeable details. Sima Xiao hardened his heart and gave an order to Magatama. Goyu glanced at him. Her enchanting eyes were like limpid autumn waters at this moment. She did not say anything. She turned and floated towards a strand of holy flame. Holy flame? Jaya was startled. He did not expect that answer. Holy flame was definitely from Temple, but how could the holy flame isolate the estuary? The atmosphere suddenly became even more tense, and everyone could feel the immense pressure. Sacred Son Charles was not the illegitimate child of the great clan elder, but the nephew of the great clan elder, and was the only inheritor of the great clan elder's family. Very few people knew about it, and Jaya had unintentionally found out about it, but he had never divulged it. Jaya was most worried that the great clan elder would do something irrational. He was a man of few words, and even if it was a bustling banquet, he liked to hold a cup of wine and sit in a corner. Tang Tian quickly realized something. Suddenly, a subordinate rushed over with a flustered expression. Jaya suddenly had a bad premonition. He had specially sent this subordinate to the Saint Continent to gather information. He did not wish to be involved, but he could not be ignorant. Countless golden, holy flames floated in the sky. It was extremely beautiful and dazzling. In the past, the aura of the holy flames would always cause people to feel at ease, but today, the aura of the holy flames had become even more divine and solemn, like the biting cold winter wind. It caused people to feel a bone-piercing chill. Even for Ji-Zhe and the rest, if they did not have any energy and relied purely on laws to defend, it would be too strenuous. Chapter 9:23. The timid people had already started to cry. The scene of the holy flames burning was a fatal blow to their morale. How will we know if we don't try? Ji-Zhe said without hesitation. At such a time, he had no choice but to make a desperate attempt. He could not care less. It was like forcing a duck onto a perch. Even for a man like Tang Tian, who had enemies under the heavens, upon thinking about the countless holy flames in the sky being absorbed by a group of spirit generals, he could not help but feel his scalp go numb. Tang Tian initially thought that they were just nourishment for the spirit generals. But after that, he realized that he had underestimated the great clan elder. The holy flames were continuously converting the energy into radiant energy, and to the disciples of the aristocratic families who trained in the inheritances of their families, it meant that the amount of energy they could control was gradually decreasing. which was similar to the forbidden hoop's reduction of energy activity. By changing the density of the air, it could achieve the goal of confinement. By lowering the energy activity, it would form a swamp effect. With the two effects stacked together, it was extremely effective against Sacred Saint Galaxy martial artists. When Chia heard that, her eyes lit up. What do you think? Tang Tian finally understood the source of the strange familiarity. The forbidden hoop. Tang Tian and the rest also felt the immense pressure. As time passed, the situation would become more and more disadvantageous to them. If they were unable to successfully decipher the secret of the holy flames before the great clan elder's spirit general hatched, they would be finished. Tang Tian did not have the time to think about all of that. He was in trouble. He had a rough understanding of the Saint Continent's system, but he realized that he was helpless. The great clan elder's system was superior to the forbidden hoop, in that the amount of holy flames used was too terrifying. Without caring about it, he shouted, "Then let me try. I can't do it alone. 2 people come and help me." Previously, when he fought with the Honorable Martial Banner of Knights, Tang Tian had specially researched on the holy flames. The holy flames were flames that were birthed from pure radiant energy, and in Temple there were strict requirements for the training of the holy flames. This was the Saint Continent, where Temple was located, the center of the entire Honorable Martial Continent, and the majority of the citizens were related to Temple. Thus, the majority of them were able to train in the holy flames. In any of the other continents, the holy flame was definitely not as widespread. The member called Xiao Yao smiled bitterly and said, "Boss, I cultivate the law of light, but it has nothing to do with the law of light." In reality, the alliance of the big clans no longer had a chance to turn the tables. They did not expect that before they could come up with a plan, their enemies were already scheming on how to wipe them out. The densely packed holy flames continued to convert the energy in the air into radiant energy. As the available energy in the air became thinner and thinner, Sadra and his army's losses increased rapidly. They felt like fish out of water, suffocating. The energy barrier that was usually easy was now unusually heavy and difficult. Every fiery pillar's position had been carefully chosen, which meant that Temple had planned this from the start. All right, what was he worrying about? He was actually worried about the Great Elder. The 500 over holy flames from the fiery pillars resonated at the same time, producing an undulation that enveloped the entire Saint Continent, which was why it was able to form a fiery screen that enveloped the entire Saint Continent. The forbidden hoop was the first technique that caught Tang Tian's interest after he entered the Honorable Martial Continent. The forbidden hoop was created by Claudia's bodyguard leader, Hank. In the entire Sacred Saint Galaxy, Hank's name was not well known, but the forbidden hoop that he created was extremely mystical, causing Tang Tian's eyes to light up. Tang Tian's research and usage of it was even more daring and creative. He was able to form a similar forbidden hoop around his body, isolating his own energy undulations. He used his own enlightenment on the forbidden hoop to appear and disappear unpredictably in the battlefield like a ghost. It could be said that the two were on completely different levels of power, but when Tang Tian linked the two together, he immediately realized that the two were similar. The great clan elder's only oversight was that he did not expect Tang Tian and his group to barge in. A lunatic was not scary, but a strict and meticulous lunatic was scary. With Tang Tian's current strength, there were very few enemies that required him to use such a method to fight. Even in Temple, the number of people that could surpass him in strength could be counted with one's fingers. His research on the forbidden hoop was more of an interest in its creativity, and he rarely used it. So, when he researched on the pillars of punishment, he did not even think about the forbidden hoop. Everyone's eyes turned to look at Xiao Yao and the rest. Of course, the pillars of punishment was much more complicated than the forbidden hoop. However, in a sense, some of the principles of the two were quite similar. With the experience of dismantling the forbidden hoop, Tang Tian quickly gained something. For example, he initially thought that the forbidden hoop was formed by the pillars of punishment and the holy flames in the sky, but now he changed his judgment. Furthermore, the might of the two were on completely different levels. When Tang Tian was trapped by the forbidden hoop, he was actually rather calm. Jizai did not care about anything else. I do not know what honorable martial laws are, but it definitely has a law. Could it be related to light laws? Xiao Yao, you practice the law of light, right? Even the dense, holy flames floating in the sky was an important part of the forbidden hoop, and was the great clan elder's hidden killing move. Such a huge and cold-blooded plan was not an impulsive move, but a meticulous plan that was closely linked. The great clan elder's ruthless and cold-blooded nature caused people to tremble in fear. Because of the undulations produced by the fiery pillar's resonance, the holy flames spewed into the sky, but did not dissipate, but flowed along the sky, forming a layer of fiery screen. It was not difficult to form such a fiery screen. As long as an army was not weak, they would be able to do it. But to envelop an entire continent, and a continent as large as the Saint Continent, Tang Tian had never heard of such a thing before. If not for being trapped inside, Tang Tian would have long turned and run. The might of the golden holy flames was not ordinary, and if it was a one-on-one fight, no matter how powerful the holy flames were, Tang Tian would not be worried. But the holy flames in front of him were formed from the lives of the entire Saint Continent, and were as vast as the ocean. No one could resist against so many holy flames. It was like an ocean. And with a wave, Tang Tian would be annihilated. And if the holy flames were to explode, the entire Saint Continent would be annihilated. Its might was something that even the sea of energy, which could contain all living things, was unable to contain. The sea of energy would be ignited, and the uncontrollable explosion and energy would form an unprecedented energy tsunami that would sweep through the entire honorable martial continent. In the end, no one knew how many continents would be able to escape this calamity. Just the thought of such a scene was enough to make one's hair stand. He had tested out the might of the pillars of punishment, and the terrifying pressure that came from the sky caused him to feel fear. It was extremely rare to find a power that could cause Tang Tian to feel fear. The forbidden hoop was extremely creative, but in terms of the essence of the power, it was not worthy of praise. Tang Tian could not help but admire the great clan elder. The Saint Continent was a vast region, and to completely seal it off, the position of the 500 over fiery pillars was extremely crucial. He had to admit that the concept was flawless. It was complete and tight. In the Saint Continent, the holy flames were viewed as the symbol of piety, and were viewed as the purest and most sacred power, and the battle techniques and killing techniques that revolved around the holy flames formed an extremely large system. Jizai immediately said, "Send 5 people. The holy flames are born from energy. Is it energy, or is it a type of law? The resonance between the holy flames." Jizai's situation was much better than Fu Zhongji. He could still think, the other energies are decreasing, but the radiant energy is increasing. Can we use the radiant energy? When the quantity of something reaches a critical point, it will undergo a qualitative change. Furthermore, it is a high-level holy flame that is extremely dangerous. But the quantity of the holy flame is a qualitative change. The 500 over pillars of punishment was the skeleton of the forbidden hoop system and also the foundation. Its most important use was not to provide holy flames, but to resonate. The God Armor Army was bitterly maintaining the energy barrier, but the pressure on everyone was increasing, causing the members to reveal signs of fatigue. Jizai saw that the situation was not good and clenched his teeth. "We can't continue like this. Do you have any ideas?" Fu Zhangji was already gasping for breath. His talent and strength were much weaker than Jizai, and he was much older than Jizai, so he felt as though he was being sucked dry. The excessive consumption of law caused the blood and qi in his body to become restless, and he was starting to show signs of losing control. Tang Tian took a deep breath. He was starting to feel anxious. When was the last time I felt anxious? He had long forgotten about it, but today he truly felt anxious. Although he knew that the great clan elder would definitely not ignite the holy flames, but with such a vast amount of holy flames, even the great clan elder might not be able to control them. There were many imperfections between the fiery pillars and the fiery screen, but the vast amount of holy flames had completely drowned all of these imperfections. Tang Tian and the rest had brought about a change to the complete and rigorous plan. That was also why, from the moment the great clan elder made his move, he had firmly grasped the initiative in the battlefield. What kind of monster will the strength of the entire Saint Continent's citizens gather on a few hundred people? Tang Tian was unable to imagine it. Fu Zhangji was startled. He was startled by Jizai's whimsical thoughts. Temple's forbidden hoop system was formed from 3 parts: the pillars of punishment, the holy flames flowing in the sky, and the holy flames floating in the air. Tang Tian suddenly realized that all of the problems had returned to the starting point: holy flames. The atmosphere in mace field tradings was extremely tense. Xiao Yao knew that the situation was dire. The energy barrier required the power of laws to maintain, and if this continued, they would only be able to hold on for half an hour before the energy barrier would shatter, and everyone would be drowned by the holy flames. Their hearts trembled at the thought of being touched by the holy flames. In the sacred saint galaxy that was filled with dense and abundant energy, more than 90% of the people had never experienced the feeling of sparse energy before. The great clan elder's move could be said to be pulling out the firewood from under the cauldron. It struck their vitals, and they were completely unable to find a way to deal with it. 5 members who still had strength walked to Xiao Yao's side. The decrease in numbers caused the energy barrier to tremble, and the members who were maintaining the energy barrier felt their bodies becoming heavier, and the pressure on them increased. Tang Tian laughed at himself, but the nervousness in his heart was alleviated. He started to focus his attention once again, discarding all of the distracting thoughts. So be it. Holy flames are holy flames. I have seen many strange and bizarre things, and there are many holy flames. Tang Tian fell into deep thought. He sat down beside the fiery pillar. Chapter 9:24. The holy flames in the sky resembled snowflakes, and also resembled dandelions that were blown by the wind. It was extremely beautiful. The 12 spirit generals bowed respectfully and walked out in a line. I have already prepared sufficient food for all of you. You can all eat your fill. The great clan elder's voice pierced through the holy flames, as though he was talking about something extremely normal. The great clan elder spoke loudly. Go, enjoy the feast of the Honorable Martial Saint, and enjoy the process of becoming a god. These few days will be unforgettable for all of you. Oh, my apologies. All of you no longer have the word forever. Sophie's body trembled involuntarily. For some reason, the scene in front of her caused her to feel fear. The great clan elder nodded his head in satisfaction. He was extremely satisfied with the 12 spirit generals in front of him. The situation was much better than what he had imagined. The honorable martial banner of knights were extremely powerful, and their holy flames had been trained to a rather profound realm. Thus, the success rate of conversion was much higher than what he had expected. He was completely in awe of the creator of the holy flame. The golden flames were extremely unique. Its most unique aspect was that it had many different forms, and under certain conditions, the holy flame could change between different forms. For example, it could become extremely tyrannical or violent, but at certain times, its nature was extremely gentle and could heal injuries. But most of the time, it would display a gentle temperament. Sophie laughed at herself. I am truly living in this world What qualifications does a spirit general have to say such words? In the end, the great clan elder did not forget to crack a joke. It showed that he was in a good mood. Honorable Marshal Saint, the sea of energy outside the Saint continent was filled with warships and merchant groups. Everyone was extremely anxious. They had heard of the fight between Temple and the prestigious families, but they never expected that the Saint continent would actually be sealed. The golden holy flames were like terrifying beasts that occupied the estuary. But what made Dooku the most surprised was that it was not energy, nor was it laws. The battle in the desolate continent had ended, and no one in the honorable Marshal continent would think about the desolate corner. Without the battle, Dooku, who was relaxed, decided to move and head to the Saint continent to support Tang Tian. Dooku was knowledgeable and tactful. When the holy bell rang, he guessed that Tang Tian would most likely head to the Saint continent. Dooku was also extremely interested in the Saint continent. Temple was their mortal enemy, and the Saint continent was Temple's headquarters. Thus he wanted to experience it. She stared blankly at the sky, feeling disgusted. However, Duke was not rash at all. He did not rush in impatiently. Instead, he approached the estuary and secretly studied the strange and terrifying golden flames. Charles was gone. The Knights of Light were gone. They did not recognize him. There was only one reason left for him to live in this world. Duke's eyes lit up. His individual strength was unparalleled, and as the only martial artist in the entire Sin domain who had gained enlightenment on a law domain, he had sufficient confidence and confidence. But there was nothing left, only the holy flame. You don't have to stay here. The great clan elder looked at her from within the flames. He felt that Sophie was not right today. He thought for a moment, then spoke warmly. Don't worry, they have just become spirit generals. Their foundations are still weak. For the time being, they will be led by you. You have to seize the time. Don't let them catch up to you. They were your subordinates in the past. If they surpass you, don't cry. Dooku was a knowledgeable man, although it was his first time seeing the golden holy flame, but he could tell that it was not ordinary. When the last cocoon of light opened, a tall and sturdy spirit general slowly walked out. They would become the true core of the new temple, becoming his most loyal servants and subordinates. Thinking about that, he immediately decided to go in and investigate. In Dooku's heart, he felt that Tang Tian was a great benefactor to the entire Sin domain, and without Tang Tian, they would not be able to leave the Sin domain. Dooku was an upright man. He felt that he had received a favor from Tang Tian and had always wanted to repay him. After that, when he chose to join Tang Tian's camp, it was partly because of that. Sophie did not speak anymore. She did not know what to say, and only felt cold. She could not say that she was sad, just slightly cold. Charles was gone, and the Banner of Knights only had 12 people left. They had become spirit generals, and looked at her as though she was a stranger. Why is it so cold? I am a spirit general. Maybe those things were never meant for me. So losing them is my fate. After that, Dooku became numb and tossed the question to the back of his mind, and did not mention anything about repaying Tang Tian. Dooku's mind moved, and he set off in the night. Sophie, who was by the side, felt a chill down her spine. Ever since the first spirit general walked out of the cocoon of light, she had noticed something strange. Every single spirit general seemed to not recognize her, and no one looked at her. It was too abnormal. Every single one of them was personally chosen by her, and was personally groomed by her, and their relationship with her was extremely deep. But now, when they looked at her, it was as though they were looking at air. When she walked out of Temple, the traffic in Temple had disappeared, and there was not a single person on the busy streets. Dang, dang, dang. The melodious sound of a bell came out from the depths of Temple. It was Temple's bell. In the past, as long as the bell rang, there would always be people who would raise their heads. Their faces would be filled with reverence, and they would be praying devoutly. They don't recognize me," Sophie suddenly said. Every word of the great clan elder was filled with an unparalleled might, and in front of him, the 12 spirit generals bowed their heads and listened. He walked to the great clan elder and bent down and said, "Great clan elder." There were some who could not wait any longer. They formed an alliance and modified a purely defensive worship and wanted to rush into Saint Continent. This time, they lasted longer than the previous time, but they were still incinerated by the holy flames. And none of them survived. Everyone became even more anxious. Their families were all in the Saint Continent. What was the current situation in the Saint Continent? Were their families doing well? This time, no one dared to rush in anymore. If only I could leave this world with Charles, Sophie thought silently. The comrades who had fought alongside her for so many years, when they walked out of the cocoon of light, the unfamiliar gazes in their eyes made her understand that her most precious thing had disappeared. He rushed to Saint Continent excitedly, and was shocked by the scene in front of him. The densely packed warships and merchant ships were extremely crowded. But when he noticed the holy flames at the estuary, his restless heart immediately calmed down. Especially when a few of the warships were incinerated, his face became even more gloomy. From today onwards, all of you are gods, temples gods. All of you must remember there is only one reason for your existence, and that is to listen to my orders. Give up all of your meaningless emotions, your laughable pity, and your cheap kindness. All of you must remember, only the light is eternal. Outside of the light, all are enemies. The will of the light cannot be disobeyed. Any hesitation or impurity is blasphemy. We will build a brand new temple, an unprecedented world of light. No one can stop us. We will be eternal. It was a product that existed between energy and laws. It could transform between the two and, at the same time, possess both attributes. He quickly thought of another problem. How are Tang Tian and the rest doing inside? In the entire Sacred Saint Galaxy, there were very few people who could pose a threat to him. Even if he were to encounter any situation, he could just run. If he wanted to run, no one could catch him. But the scene before him made him realize that Tang Tian might be in danger, and he could no longer sit and watch. For a powerful martial artist at his level, he would never go against his own heart. Dooku immediately made the decision. Regardless of the price he had to pay, he had to ensure Tang Tian's safety. Even if he had to pay with his life, he would not hesitate. Maybe Temple will be rebuilt. That's right, just like what the great clan elder said. It will be a new temple, a temple that has nothing to do with me. The 12 spirit generals bowed. All of the estuaries of the Saint Continent were blocked so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Ultimately, Dooku was a peerless martial artist who had gained enlightenment on law domains, and his understanding of laws and the myriad of things in the world far exceeded that of an ordinary person. He even boldly cut off a strand of holy flame and carefully studied it. Very quickly, he had some gains. It was the first time he had encountered a flame like the holy flame, and he roughly understood the Tao inside. What a unique thing. From today onwards, all of you are the 12 honorable martial paladins of Temple. Her heart sank to the bottom. She maintained her silence and did not say a word. Walking in Temple, the once bustling temple was now empty. It was indescribably lonely and spacious. She stopped and looked at the empty temple and could not help but sigh. She could not understand. If there are no people left, then what's the point of rebuilding Temple? All of the familiar faces in the past were no longer there. Her mood became gloomy. She quickened her footsteps. She did not want to stay any longer. When Dooku rushed over, he saw the entire scene. But what made Dooku feel helpless was that not only did they not help Tang Tian, but instead received Tang Tian's care, and felt that they owed him more and more favors. The great clan elder casually said, "They only need to remember what they need to remember." they will get to know each other in the future. The great clan elder was satisfied and in high spirits. Although the 12 spirit generals did not seem to be a lot, but they all retained their intellect, and each of them could hold their own. They were the most elite honorable martial banner of knights when they were alive, and all of them had gone through layers and layers of selection. All of them were brimming with talent, regardless of whether it was their individual strength or battle accomplishments. They were all outstanding. After transforming into spirit generals, their talents were preserved, but their strength would increase by over 10 times. At the start, there were still many warships that relied on the outstanding defense of the warships to charge in. But after more than 10 of the warships were incinerated, no one dared to charge in anymore. A few of them were still waiting for someone to come out and negotiate with them. Regardless of who had the upper hand, at least someone would come out and speak. But they waited for day and night, but no one came out to negotiate with them. Yes, Sophie replied softly and walked out. Chapter 9:25. The white holy flame was a pure, radiant energy. Another gray spot appeared on the god armor, and in the blink of an eye, the gray spot disappeared, revealing a hole. The light in Tang Tian's eyes dimmed down. The aura around him disappeared. The god armor crumbled, transforming into light spots and disappearing into the air. It was the first time Tang Tian's god armor crumbled on its own ever since he gained enlightenment on the god armor. Although it was only for a short period of time, but the consumption was huge, far exceeding Tang Tian's expectations. Even the god armor could not be maintained, and directly crumbled in the air. But the great clan elder obviously did not do so. At the moment when the golden holy flame and the god armor's laws were destroyed, Tang Tian saw that inside the golden holy flame there was a figure that clashed with the god armor's laws. At that moment, Tang Tian had already determined that the holy flame was not a law, nor was it an energy form. Tang Tian's face was as white as paper, his fingertips trembled, his legs went soft, but his eyes were extremely clear, revealing an indescribable joy. It was completely destroyed. Tang Tian immediately realized that the unusualness was most likely the crux to breaking the holy flame. The laws of the gray spots were all destroyed. No, it was destroyed. The destruction of the holy flame and god armor's laws made every detail extremely clear. The golden holy flame continued to enlarge in his vision, and the golden fire snakes that came into contact with the surface of the god armor seemed to become extremely slow. The entire process seemed to be slow, but in truth, it happened in an instant. Tang Tian squinted his eyes. His body moved slightly, and the holy flame that was flying towards him was deflected. Although it was very small, but Tang Tian was definitely not wrong. Seems like my god armor is being viewed as an enemy by the holy flame. Tang Tian's mind worked extremely quickly. It was natural for the holy flame to love energy, but the holy flame's hatred towards laws, as well as its ability to destroy laws, was surprising. But at that moment, the power of the physique in Tang Tian's body started to circulate. The vast and boundless power of the physique surged into Tang Tian's brain, causing Tang Tian's eyes to become brighter and brighter, as though a bright light was being compressed to its limit. Even the gorgeous god equipment was overshadowed by the light released by Tang Tian's eyes. Holy flames were indeed not a law. What shocked Tang Tian the most was that the figure's shape was extremely similar to law threads. With a flick of his finger, the gray patch flew out. While it was still in the air, it melted at a speed that was hard to detect with the naked eye and completely disappeared. Tang Tian's brain was working faster and faster, and the light in his eyes was getting brighter and brighter, so bright that it was hard to look at him directly. Threads of mist seeped out of the Shen equipment. The mist rose. Tang Tian's flesh power, which was as vast as the sea, rumbled and surged madly into Tang Tian's brain. Under the Shen equipment, The bloody light on Tang Tian's neck exploded and was shockingly thick. If Tang Tian was awake at this moment, he would feel like he was in the middle of a storm, and his ears would be filled with majestic roars. He extended his finger and touched a strand of holy flame. He had never and never dared to recklessly use the power of the physique in his body. Tang Tian had suspicions in his mind, but he did not relax his vigilance towards his surroundings, as he suddenly noticed a strange phenomenon. All of the holy flames in a 10 m radius around him suddenly flew towards him. Since the start, the holy flames that floated in the air had always been slow. Even the swallowing and spitting of the flames were slow, causing them to look extremely graceful. But the holy flames that flew towards Tang Tian had suddenly changed their slow speed. Like sharks that had smelled blood, they flew extremely quickly and aggressively. Up until now, Temple was truly too calm, and the strange calmness was too abnormal, causing people's hearts to jump. In the past, when Tang Tian heard about it from Melissa, he did not think much about it, but now that he had confirmed it, he understood how powerful the great clan elder was. Generally speaking, if one wanted to combine energy and laws together, they only needed to use the laws as the backbone and the energy as the flesh and blood to form an extremely stable structure. In a sense, Jizé and the rest were using energy in the same way, using laws as the backbone and absorbing energy as the flesh and blood. Time continued to flow, and Tang Tian knew that the longer it dragged on, the more disadvantageous it would be for them. Without caring about anything else, he clenched his teeth and decided to use the stupidest and most dangerous method. The holy flames were not energy, nor were they laws, but something that was in between. His mind trembled. What is that? The moment the holy flames touched his body, Tang Tian's eyes that seemed to be bottomless suddenly lit up with a bewitching light aura, and an indescribable aura suddenly exploded out without any warning. The air around him seemed to have congealed, and the holy flames that were dancing around him seemed to have entered glue, and their speed became sluggish. Tang Tian could not help but admit that the great clan elder was a true genius. Every time the golden fire serpent of the holy flames swallowed and spat, a pure, radiant energy would scatter into the air like a rain of light. When the golden holy flames came into contact with Tang Tian's finger, an extremely tyrannical and scorching aura flowed through his finger and into his body. If it was any other time, Tang Tian would definitely use other methods to study it, for example, disguising himself and entering temple to learn how to train in the holy flames. In truth, to a powerful martial artist at Tang Tian's level, regardless of what kind of power it was, they all reached the same goal. His understanding of the holy flames was just lacking a layer of paper, but it was this layer of paper that could be pierced through and enlightened. If not, he would be confused and could only look at the flowers in the fog. He finally had an even more crucial discovery. The power of the physique was completely different from energy. It was like water that was preserved in the depths of a sand dune. It was not a trickle, but was mixed in the sand and became moist. When using the power of the physique, one had to hold back. If not, once the physique was dried up, it would be impossible to recover. In that moment, Tang Tian even had a misconception, as though the law threads were pouncing onto his own reflection. Like a god of war, Tang Tian, who was fully equipped, had an imposing aura that soared into the sky. The countless lines in his cold pupils flowed endlessly, and the power in his entire body was activated to the maximum. The holy flames that were revolving around Tang Tian suddenly lost interest in Tang Tian and scattered. The holy flames were in existence between energy and laws, or in other words, it was a unique combination of the two. Tang Tian maintained his dodging, but took the opportunity to slap at one of the holy flames. His gaze was locked onto the strand of holy flames in front of him. The golden flames were slowly swallowing and spitting out like a pure and holy golden lotus. The floating golden holy flames seemed to have sunk into a net, and around them were faint lines that resembled a net. Tang Tian was extremely familiar with them. They were spatial law threads. Under the state of the god armor, Tang Tian was extremely sensitive to laws. He noticed that the space around the holy flames was sunken as though it was a void, and was extremely dark. Tang Tian's ice-cold state of mind was revolving at an unprecedented speed. All the images in his vision were being disintegrated at an astonishing speed. Tang Tian sensed danger. Taking a deep breath, Tang Tian activated his god armor. The gorgeous gold god armor seemed to be flowing on the surface of his body. Countless of bright and dark, profound law patterns appeared and disappeared. The gold liquid was like a wriggling living creature. When the gold liquid completely covered Tang Tian's face, Tang Tian's eyes suddenly became cold and indifferent. At the moment, Tang Tian's entire body was emitting an inhuman aura. He was extremely indifferent, as though he was a lifeless machine. The god armor formed from law threads was being absorbed by the holy flames, as though there was some deep hatred between them. How can the law threads be destroyed? At that moment, time seemed to have slowed down. The holy flames burning on his fingertips were the closest, and Tang Tian could see it clearly. The void around the holy flames was distorting as though it was a vortex. As long as any energy entered the area, it would be devoured. The layer of distorted dark void was only a thin layer, but the endless amount of energy was being sucked in. The law god armor on his fingertips made Tang Tian not move and carefully felt the holy flames. In his vision, the entire world had become completely different. It was Tang Tian's first time encountering such a situation. In the blink of the eye, the holy flames extinguished, and the area on Tang Tian's fingertips that was covered by the god armor was contaminated, forming a gray patch. I've found the crux of the problem. I just need to follow this clue and find the answer. Facing the holy flames pouncing towards him, Tang Tian did not panic at all and moved around within the 3M radius. He did not want to attract more holy flames and carefully controlled his movement. Although it was only a 3M radius, Tang Tian was still able to move with ease. Although the holy flames were fast, they were still lacking compared to Tang Tian. The holy flames danced around Tang Tian like a swarm of bees. It was a dazzling sight, but it was unable to touch the corner of Tang Tian's clothes. Tang Tian's indifferent eyes revealed a change for the first time. Tang Tian had seen ordinary holy flames before, and the white holy flames and the gold holy flames were two completely different things. The gold holy flames came from the great clan elder's hands. Before the great clan elder, in the history of Temple, no one had ever been able to cultivate out the gold holy flames. And it was also from the great clan elder that they started to spread the holy flames, or in other words, the core power system of the holy flames started to form. What's going on? That is the crux of the destruction of the two. Tang Tian shook his head, and threw all of the messy thoughts to the back of his mind. The more he thought about it, the more confused he became. He placed his attention back on the pillars of punishment, but he never thought that after going around in circles, the crux of dealing with Temple would still be the holy flames. The consecutive setbacks did not discourage him. How could a core force that could support an entire system be simple? Tang Tian quickly noticed another characteristic of the holy flames. The holy flames' ability to devour energy was extremely strong. Regardless of the attributes of the energy, they could devour it effortlessly and transform it into pure, radiant energy. If one were to say that energy was the holy flames' favorite food, then the holy flames were filled with hatred towards laws. The scene of the holy flames devouring energy did not exceed Tang Tian's imagination, but the destruction of laws was something that Tang Tian had never expected. Law threads were easily disrupted, but they were extremely difficult to destroy, much less being destroyed. Under the state of the god armor, The changes in laws could not escape his eyes, and the law threads at his fingertips were truly destroyed. Chapter 9:26. At that moment, everyone had absolute trust in Tang Tian. Tang Tian was moved, but he was not overly sentimental. "Jizai, all of you hold on, I need some time." Tang Tian initially thought that the image was a unique law thread because the shape of the image was in the shape of a line and was exactly the same as a law thread. Tang Tian was extremely familiar with law threads and knew that the shape of the image was truly the shape of a law thread. In truth, Tang Tian also felt that it was a daring idea. A ball of gentle, white light, aura, lit up from his palm. The ball of light grew at a speed visible to the naked eye, causing beads of perspiration to form all over his face. And very quickly, the ball of light became the size of a millstone. Everyone in the trading organization watched anxiously. Such a huge ball of light contained an astonishing amount of energy, and if it were to explode, the consequences would be unthinkable. Although the idea was extremely risky, but in theory, it had a high chance of success. Of course, with the hatred that the Holy Flame had towards Tang Tian's god armor, they had to think of other ways to carry out the plan. But in the battle of life and death, if they did not take any risks, then they would just have to wait for death. The benefits and risks would always be proportional. Furthermore, it was already a miracle that they could find a way. And it was all thanks to Tang Tian that they could use such a method. Jizai clenched his teeth and nodded. "Master, rest assured." From a certain perspective, spirit generals were similar to the product of an intermediate state, a special state between life and death. To a spirit general, the Holy Flame was a great nourishment. Tang Tian did not have the habit of making things difficult for himself. Although time was tight, but Tang Tian was still well rested and did not rush to start. He knew that only when he was in the most perfect state would there be a chance of success, and if he did not have enough stamina, he would only make things worse. If it wasn't a misconception, then what was it? But very quickly, Tang Tian rejected that guess. He carefully recalled the details that he had captured in that instant, and had many new discoveries. The unique form bestowed it with a unique nature. After Tang Tian gave his orders, he did not speak anymore, but sat down cross-legged. He needed time to recover his stamina. The exhaustion was too great, and he still needed to use the god armor. Without stamina, he would not be able to activate it. Tang Tian trusted his own senses. His intuition was extremely sharp, and was able to catch many details that even he himself did not notice, which had been proven in countless of battles. And the only obstacle for Xiao Ran and the rest to absorb the Holy Flame was the light attribute of the Holy Flame. The pure light energy was an extreme type of energy, and to spirit generals, it was a poison. Although the radiant energy within the Holy Flames had been turned ethereal, and its tyrannical and masculine nature had undergone a huge change, but it still retained many of the characteristics of the radiant energy. Xiao Yao's state of mind was calm and slowly of Xiao Tian. Moreover, during this period of rest, he carefully deliberated over the specific ideas and details. "Then hurry up and start. We don't have much time," Xian said without hesitation. The mysterious figure's shape truly resembled a law thread. The only difference was that it was a reflection. That's right, Tang Tian remembered the feeling clearly, especially at the moment when the dotted lines and law threads clashed. The feeling was extremely obvious. If it was an ordinary person, they would definitely think that they were seeing things. How can there be a reflection of law threads? Time ticked by, but Tang Tian's eyes remained closed, and his body remained motionless. Tang Tian could imagine how overjoyed the great elder must have been when he discovered this strange structure. After persevering, Tang Tian finally understood why he felt that the dotted lines were like reflections of law threads. The dotted line was indeed a mysterious and indescribable state, although the law threads were hard to see with the naked eye, but they were superimposed on the space, while the illusory figure was the exact opposite. They were below the space. Using carvings as an analogy, law threads were yang carvings, while the dotted lines were yin carvings. Suddenly, Xiao Yao spat out a mouthful of blood. He flew backwards, as if he had been hit by a heavy hammer. His mind worked quickly. Xiao ran, and the rest were unable to endure the remnant radiant attribute in the holy flame, but he could, with his tyrannical physique, forget about the hollowed radiant energy. Even without the hollowed radiant energy, he was not afraid. On this point, even Dooku was unable to compare to him, showing how terrifying his physique was. The white light membrane that covered the energy barrier shattered like glass. If they did not have a terrifying physique, they would simply be seeking death. And if they did not have the God Armor's tyrannical control over laws, they would similarly be seeking death. But the efficiency of absorbing the hollowed radiant energy in the air was too low. Temple spirit generals could directly absorb the holy flames, while Xiao ran, and the rest could only absorb the thin hollowed radiant energy. Thus the difference in their speed of growth was like heaven and earth. Because of that, they were in a dangerous situation. Towards unfamiliar energy, the more it was, the easier it was for problems to arise, and the density of the energy outside had already reached a terrifying level. It was Tang Tian's first time seeing the yin carving law threads, and he was surprised. Very quickly, the white light extended to more than half of the energy barrier. Ji and the rest revealed looks of joy. As long as the white light membrane enveloped the entire energy barrier, it would form a radiant energy barrier. Initially, it was just a rough idea, but it had become more perfect. On the contrary, the radiant energy released by the holy flames had become much gentler after being hollowed out, and was much thinner than the holy flames. Not only would Xiao Ran and the rest not be injured when absorbing it, they could even nourish themselves. Regardless of what they relied on at that moment, victory was the most important thing. Truly a genius. Tang Tian could not help but exclaim in admiration. The spirit generals that Temple transformed into were naturally extremely compatible with the radiant energy, thus they did not have any problems absorbing it. But for Xiao Ran and the rest, it was extremely difficult to absorb, as the hollowed holy flames could possibly injure them. After thinking about it, Tang Tian felt that the great clan elder was truly a genius. The great clan elder should have projected laws into the energy, but the illusory image is not a true law, but an emulated law projected into the energy. Emulated laws and pure radiant energy actually formed a stable structure. It had to be said that the world was mysterious. Emulated laws were difficult to form in ordinary energy, but in the purest and most tyrannical radiant energy, they were able to stabilize. Chie replied without hesitation, "All right, I'm starting." Xiao Yao took a deep breath and reminded his teammates behind him. With that, he extended his palm out of the energy barrier and closed his eyes. The radiant energy outside the energy barrier was so abundant that it caused him to tremble in fear. The concentration of the radiant energy was much higher than what he had expected, and to him, it was not a good thing. No wonder both parties would be destroyed when they collided. They were like yin and yang, representing two extremes. Upon collision, they would naturally be destroyed. That was also why when Tang Tian activated his god armor, the holy flames were like sharks that had smelled blood and swarmed over, while Ji and the rest were not affected. Because although Ji and the rest were using laws, they were using the laws to move energy. In other words, Ji and the rest's law threads were wrapped with a layer of flesh, which was energy. But Tang Tian's god armor was not wrapped with energy and was naked in the air, naturally being targeted by the holy flames. Xiao Yao trained in light laws, and although light laws and radiant laws were only one word apart, there was a huge difference. However, The situation was extremely dangerous, and he could only bite the bullet. She trusted Tang Tian unconditionally and believed that Tang Tian would definitely not joke around in such a critical moment. But as long as she understood the theory and told Tang Tian, she would naturally be able to find a way. Luckily, the explosion that everyone was most worried about did not happen. The light regiments seemed to have melted, and the white light aura started to extend along the energy barrier that Jizai and the rest had erected, and the energy barrier seemed to be plated with a layer of white light. If such a vast amount of holy flames were to be absorbed, Tang Tian had no idea what kind of monsters would be created, as their numbers were truly too terrifying. Upon entering the energy barrier, Tang Tian immediately spoke up. There was no time for him to explain in detail. Every minute that he was slower would mean an additional minute of danger. When the great clan elder discovered the unique structure, he obviously did not stop his research. At Tang Tian's level, there were many things that he was lacking in understanding. Now that this layer of paper had been broken, Tang Tian could roughly guess the great clan elder's method. He stood at the edge of the energy barrier. With his 5 teammates behind him, they stood in a defensive formation. All of them had gloomy expressions. The holy flames would pass through him, and the remnant radiant attribute in the holy flames could be absorbed by him, or collected, or expelled, and the rest would be absorbed by Xian and the rest. After understanding this point, Tang Tian's spirit was roused. I have an idea, but it requires some risk. The miraculous and stable structure contained astonishing changes. The emulated laws that had stabilized in the pure radiant energy started to affect the radiant energy itself. The originally tyrannical and pure radiant energy was gradually turning illusory, the energy attribute was weakening, and from there, it became a special product that was in between energy and laws. At that moment, Tang Tian finally understood why the great clan elder had placed all his hopes on the spirit general. It had to be said. Under pressure, one's potential would always be easily ignited. Tang Tian did not activate his god armor, but his mind worked much faster than usual. Tang Tian started to ponder. His thoughts were not fixed. The gold, holy flame itself was an existence that defied common sense, and it was normal for it to have some weird things. Projection. The great clan elder's genius creativity was astonishing, but in terms of using laws, only Dooku, who had gained enlightenment on law domain, could compare to Tang Tian. The difference was Dooku relied on his understanding of laws, while Tang Tian relied on his god armor. I can act as a transition? No, a filter. Everyone's faces became ugly, and just at that moment, they saw Tang Tian returning and heaved a sigh of relief. His teammates behind him were shocked and subconsciously caught hold of him. He had already fainted, and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. The scene of the collision replayed in Tang Tian's mind over and over again. He was extremely focused. Chapter 9:27. If not for the great clan elder doing such a crazy and cruel thing, just by relying on the holy flame, the great clan elder's name would definitely go down in history. Tang Tian had always been thinking what kind of law was the emulated law inside the holy flame. Although he had seen the emulated law inside the holy flame the moment the holy flame clashed with the god armor, but the entire process was too short, and he did not see what law it was. But he suddenly understood. It was the radiant law, the projected radiant law. It cannot be any other law. It can only be the radiant law. Tang Tian admired the great clan elder in his heart, but he did not know that he was also a freak in the eyes of others. The zero energy body, the law-tempering body, the awakened god armor, the god armor army, they were all created by him. After seeing all sorts of strange powers, Tang Tian's mental fortitude and vision had long changed. While others were filled with fear towards the holy flame, he had already understood the theory behind the holy flame, and was full of praise for the holy flame and the great clan elder. Chia immediately replied with a sweet smile. Tang Tian, who had retracted his smile, became solemn once again. His gaze was focused on the holy flame floating in the sky. Everyone's safety was in his hands, and at the moment he was under immense pressure. They only had one chance, and he could only activate the god armor once. If he failed this time, he muttered in his heart to himself. Tang Tian felt Chia's gaze and thought that Chia was afraid, so he revealed a reassuring smile. He faced himself, just like how he faced himself in the valley outside Starwind City. Chia's eyes were as bright as stars. She subconsciously held her breath. It had been a long time since he had a young lad who was like a god to himself. His strength was no longer the weak young lad of the past. He had started to look down on the world. He had started to move unhindered. He had started to act like a leader. He had started to act like a monarch. The moment the god armor was activated, the surrounding holy flames immediately flew over from all directions as though they had smelled blood. This point was suddenly enlightened, and many places in Tang Tian's mind also became clear. He had studied temples, ordinary, holy flames before, and had some understanding of the radiant law. The radiant law was pure and tyrannical, but Tang Tian's body had been tempered by countless of laws. Yes, there was only admiration and no fear. Tang Tian closed his eyes. He could hear his pounding heart. It was so rapid, like a dense drum beat, shaking his whole body slightly numb. The mask on Tang Tian's face had long been melted by the God Equipment Law. His not-so-handsome face was like a magnet that firmly attracted her gaze. Compared to her memory of her big brother Tian from her childhood, this face now had less stubbornness and arrogance and more maturity and gentleness, but full of seriousness and determination. It was still exactly the same as before. Because they were from Temple, and the great clan elder's holy flame was developed from Temple's holy flame. But in the depths of his heart, he was still that fearless youth. A feeling that he hadn't felt for a long time flowed into his body like a burning flame, igniting the desire that had been sleeping in his veins for a long time. An indescribable excitement coursed through every corner of his body like an electric current. The intense heartbeat that had made him nervous earlier was now like fuel that ignited his fighting spirit. Remove the energy barrier. Tang Tian heaved a sigh of relief. Luckily, he had brought enough gold-grade spirit cards, all of which were prepared by Pai Pa due to the appearance of saints in Heaven's Road. As well as the prevalence of mechanical armies, the price of spirit cards had dropped drastically. Ursa Major constellation was currently rich and overbearing. They had an abundance of resources and also had many gold-grade spirit cards. Pai Pa was meticulous. The last time Tang Tian returned to Three Spirits City, she had prepared many useful things for Tang Tian, the most important of which were the spirit cards, with over 100 gold-grade spirit cards. On the surface of Tang Tian's god armor, there was a thin layer of energy barrier, and it was this energy barrier that isolated the spirit chi of the god armor. Tang Tian stared at the holy flames not far away. After losing their target, the holy flames once again became slow and leisurely, like a jellyfish swimming in the ocean. But just as they were about to touch Tang Tian, their speed suddenly slowed down. They had lost their target. All of his anxiousness had been thrown to the 9 heavens, and he flew above the trading organization. The god armor was activated once again. The gold liquid flowed along the surface of his body, and Tang Tian's state of mind was once again immersed in the unique state of the god armor. Her mouth could not help but reveal a slight smile. Her bright eyes did not leave Tang Tian for even half a second. The only regret in her heart was that she was unable to help big brother Tian. She was an expert in commanding battles, and in terms of individual strength, she was far from Tang Tian. She had never had the chance to command battles, and naturally did not have the chance to display her abilities. Facing the holy flames, he did not hold back at all. The holy flames made him sigh in admiration. The miraculous balance and mutual influence was filled with an incomparable beauty and was a masterpiece in human history. But that was not the reason for him to be afraid. A total of 100 gold grade spirit cards floated quietly around him, as though there was an invisible force restraining them. His next action surprised everyone. He threw out a spirit card. From the moment she was in danger, she had always been calm. She felt that there was nothing to worry about as long as Big Brother Tian was here. She did not know why she would have such a thought. Maybe it was because when they were young, Big Brother Tian had always acted as a hero and stood in front of her. She had always been full of confidence in Tang Tian, completely without any reason, just like how Tang Tian, who only knew fundamental martial techniques, was a joke in Indo Academy. But she still felt that Big Brother Tian was very powerful, just like how they did not have any vows of undying love, but she was always filled with hope and confidence for their future. It was just that unreasonable. The golden figure in the sky opened up his arms like a war god. There was no such thing as an invincible power in the world. Any power would have its own shortcomings and limitations. To project the laws into the energy, and then use the carving laws to turn the energy into a void, fundamentally changing the nature of the energy. This had already broken away from the scope of techniques. Just like how the holy flames could no longer become energy, nor could it become a law, it was a brand new, never-before-seen power, and that was the true power of the great clan elder. Creating a technique and creating a type of power, the two were on completely different levels. Tang Tian's orders could be said to be brazen, but Jizai and the rest did not hesitate, and immediately removed the energy barrier. Everyone opened their eyes wide and looked at Tang Tian with curiosity and anticipation. Jizai and the rest naturally knew of their boss's abilities, but Xian, Xiaoran, and the rest had never seen Tang Tian's true abilities. Previously at the Chiu Offense Institute, Tang Tian was about to go on a killing spree, but in the end, Xian stole the limelight, and everyone saw Xian's magnificent performance. It was a gold-rank spirit card. It landed 10 in front of Tang Tian and floated in the air, unmoving. Tang Tian's movements were extremely fast as rays of gold light shot out from his chest. In the blink of an eye, he was surrounded by spirit cards, all of which were gold-rank spirit cards. He instructed Xian and Xiaoran to stand below him and the spirit cards, and then got them to sit cross-legged. Tang Tian was speechless. That means I lost everything. I have to go back and thank Pai Pa, Tang Tian thought. But all of these regrets disappeared in the blink of an eye, as long as Big Brother Tian is here. Godlike young lad. Including himself. Everyone was going to die here. The Southern Alliance had lost the war and would be swallowed by Temple, Three Spirits City, and Ursa Major Constellation's fate would also fall into the abyss. Everyone had gone through so many battles. Everyone had persevered and struggled. And the results would all disappear with this loss. Both parties were fighting to the death, although Tang Tian admired the great clan elder, but at the moment, his mind was filled with thoughts on how to defeat the enemy. Even if I can't do it, dying together with Big Brother Tian is also a form of fortune. He was like a dragon that had been slumbering for 10,000 years and had just been awoken and could not wait to display his will to the world. When everyone followed Tang Tian's orders and entered their positions, they all quietened down, using all of their strength, igniting all of their passion, without holding anything back, disregarding everything. They told themselves the answer they wanted. The great clan elder had absolute confidence in his holy flame, and all of his plans revolved around the holy flame. His confidence was not arrogance. It must be known that after promoting the holy flame for so many years, no one had ever discovered the secret of the holy flame. Regardless of whether it was the clan elders of Temple or the enemies of Temple, All of them thought that the holy flame was a secret technique of temple, and that the great clan elder's training was the most profound. Go, go, go! When they were resting, Tang Tian had always been perfecting his thoughts. The densely packed gold-grade spirit cards floated around Tang Tian, flickering with gold light like a golden ripple. The positions of the spirit cards had been meticulously arranged by Tang Tian, and not a single one touched the holy flame. Tang Tian opened his eyes, and in his abstruse eyes there were flames blazing. The great clan elder would never have thought that there would actually be such a freak like Tang Tian in the world. The hollowified energy had to remain, and the virtual laws in the holy flame had to be removed. Godlike young lad. The only thing that could nourish spirit generals was the hollowified energy. Tang Tian had never seriously researched on spirit generals before, but he had many spirit generals by his side, and had his own understanding of spirit generals. In a sense, spirit generals were also existences that were hollowified. That was also why spirit generals were unable to directly absorb energy to strengthen themselves. Pray. A cold glint flashed past Tang Tian's eyes. All of the holy flames that resembled jellyfish were completely unaware that they had become prey in Tang Tian's eyes. It was as though a storm was rumbling in his heart, as though the sun was shining down on him, just like when he was young. When Tang Tian opened his eyes, the light aura of the energy barrier had dimmed and was on the verge of collapse. Only half of the God Armor army was still standing. The exhausted members were lying on the ground, close to fainting. And Jizé and the rest who were bitterly holding on had reached their limits. Their faces were as pale as paper. Their entire bodies were drenched in sweat, their bodies trembling uncontrollably. Some of the members had blood stains at the corner of their mouths. Even Tang Tian's zero-energy body was unable to compare to it, as his zero-energy body was still within the realm of the power of the physique. On the other hand, Tang Tian's awakened God Armor was somewhat interesting, but it was still not a completely new type of power. Ever since the God Armor army was formed, they had never been in such a sorry state. Chapter 9:28. But now, the number one bone in their body was telling them that it was going to be painful, and for them to bear with it, how could their expressions not change? Please allow me to be selfish. Ta Fei remained calm. I am unable to go against your orders, and regardless of the price, I am willing to pay. Just that, the blood and sins on my hands have caused me to lose the courage to continue living. The 12 spirit general knights all arrived in front of one of the pillars of punishment, in front of the fiery pillars that soared into the sky. They looked extremely small. As long as the tongues of flame swept over them, they would be engulfed, and not even ashes would be left. The great clan elder was silent. The flames suddenly stopped, and the atmosphere became extremely oppressive. His emotional wails were drowned out by the whistling of the flames. The great clan elder stared at his old partner, and after a long while he suddenly said, "You don't have to do this." The memories of his youth flashed past his eyes, causing Ta Fei's heart to feel warm. As per usual, he bowed solemnly. "Please allow Ta Fei to serve you one last time." With a slight sigh, the flames gradually split apart, and a skinny old man walked out from the flames. His dignified face was filled with sorrow. The great clan elder's appearance had always been a secret in temple, and the people who had seen the great clan elder's true appearance were all decades ago, when the great clan elder was still young. After he gained power, he never revealed his true appearance. Every spirit general card released the aura of a spirit general. Spirit generals and holy flames were both products that were in between the two forms, so the two were able to fuse well. That was why the great clan elder placed all his hopes on the spirit generals. The holy flames would not reject the fusion with the spirit generals. As per usual, his hair was combed impeccably, and his white robe was as clean as new. What's there to not need? Ta Fei chuckled and bowed. I do not have many years left to live. Please allow me to contribute my last bit of strength for you. Xiao Ran was much more calm. She only grabbed onto her zanbato tightly. Snow City, Macefield's trading organization, Sky. What a pity you will not be able to see this grand era. But Tang Tian had already found a way. In the distance, the great clan elder's gaze remained on Sophie. When he saw Sophie's hesitation, he snorted, and the surrounding cold air started to leak out. Sophie's eyes were as clear as water. She looked at the golden ocean in front of her and sighed in her heart. Taffy, I'm right. I can definitely rebuild Temple. I will rule the world. Just you wait, Taffy. Xin hurriedly lowered his head again. As expected, the golden light did not scatter evenly on the ground. Instead, it outlined an extremely complicated pattern on the ground. Xin exclaimed in surprise. The pattern on the ground seemed familiar to him, as though he had seen it somewhere before. This strange sense of familiarity disappeared in a flash. When he thought about it carefully, he couldn't remember anything. It was much easier for Temple's spirit generals to absorb the holy flames. The compatibility between the two was extremely high, and they could absorb it effortlessly. All of Temple's spirit generals were transformed from Honorable Marshal Banner of Knights, and the Honorable Marshal Banner of Knights had trained in the holy flames for decades, and the holy flames were like a part of their bodies. When they transformed into spirit generals, they retained this instinct. She leapt into the golden sea of holy flames. This fiery pillar was thicker and more robust than all the other fiery pillars, and the holy flames were even more ferocious. Within the flames, a blurry figure stared blankly at the thick pillar of fire. Sophie watched as they stepped into the surging holy flames. She sighed, and without hesitation, she stepped into the fiery pillar. Her body was submerged by the holy flames, and she did not know what she would look like after a few days. Do you still remember Charles? Do you still remember everyone? The golden flames suddenly danced wildly. The great clan elder scolded loudly, but after scolding, he stopped, and only whimpers remained in the flames. The golden flames stopped in front of Charles's grave. Only when he saw Sophie enter the fiery pillar did he turn and leave. Xin finally remembered what the familiar pattern was. In the past, there were many energy houses in the army encampment. He had not figured out what the energy houses were used for, but he had already sensed that something was amiss, and immediately shouted, Hey, 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 I am actually a staff officer. Staff officer. Staff officers are clerks. Clerks do not go to the front lines. Xin and Xiaoman looked at each other and noticed the seriousness and shock in each other's eyes. The two of them had discussed about Tang Tian's strength before, and even if the two of them teamed up, they might not be able to defeat Tang Tian. The two of them were intelligent people. Tang Tian's performance was different from usual, which meant that the situation was more complicated, and the pressure that Tang Tian had to bear. But Xin and the rest were different. What was useful to Xin, and the rest was the hollowified energy. And the law projection in the holy flames was like poison to them. If they were to forcefully absorb it, they might unknowingly become Temple's spirit generals. He caressed the tombstone and sighed, Child, rest well. An unprecedented and powerful Temple was about to be born from his hands. A grand era was about to be born from his hands. The figure that stepped into the fiery pillar disappeared. The resolute and decisive words floated in the lonely wind. He firmly believed. Gradually, more and more golden light scattered down. Xiaoman said softly, There are patterns on the ground. Xin and Xiaoman, who were below, looked up. They were extremely curious. They had never seen such methods before. Please take care. Ta Fei will not be able to serve you in the future. With Temple as the center, the 15 kilometers radius of the ring area had 12 pillars of punishment scattered all around. Ta Fei's face revealed a warm smile. The golden holy flames surged out of his body and silently swallowed. From the start to the end, he maintained his smile without any pain. When the last strand of soul was completely incinerated, the golden fiery pillar shot into the sky. Maybe it's better not to remember. The last bit of light behind her disappeared, and she was completely immersed in the golden world. The flowing holy flames emitted a divine aura. For some reason, the divine aura was extremely warm and intimate, causing her body to uncontrollably want to touch the golden holy flames and uncontrollably want to jump into the warm embrace. It was as though there was a voice in the depths of her body that kept on telling her, as long as she gave her all to the warmth, all of her hesitation and confusion would be answered, all of her sorrow and disappointment would be redeemed. The great clan elder's voice was slightly emotional. You can become a spirit general, although the chances are not high, but at least there is a chance we can still fight side by side. He stared at the tombstone, the sorrowful aura enveloping the entire graveyard, with a gray, translucent body. No one would have thought that the great clan elder who held the highest authority in temple was actually a spirit general. He suppressed the shock and suspicion in his heart. Just at that moment, Tang Tian's voice came out from above. It might be more painful later. You guys have to endure it. When the holy flames were swept into the golden ring formed by the gold spirit cards, they suddenly became joyful, and the frequency of the flames jumping became much faster. There was something in this region that attracted them. Furthermore, the two of them had seen Tang Tian's usual training, and his determination to risk his life made the two of them prostrate themselves in admiration. They had never heard Tang Tian complain about being tired or bitter, and in their hearts, Tang Tian was definitely the number one tough nut to crack. Magatama, who had remained silent in the corner, raised her beautiful face. It was filled with shock, as though she had seen something terrifying. Without any hesitation, they stepped into the fiery pillar at the same time, and in the blink of an eye, their bodies disappeared. Xin swallowed his saliva. He wanted to know how painful it was. He walked along the spacious and empty temple. His footsteps were firm. Every step was extremely heavy, causing sparks to fly out. The lonely echo did not make him hesitate or lament. He looked at the spacious and empty temple, and he could imagine how lively and prosperous it would be in the future. We are righteous. Ta Fei, are you doubting our cause? Only by sweeping away all the obstacles can we rebuild temple. Have you forgotten the oath we made when we were young? You said that you wanted to fight alongside me, but now you want to leave me? What is blood? What's the point of sin? Ta Fei laughed. That is why you are the great clan elder, and I am Ta Fei. Suddenly, the great clan elder stretched out his leg and walked towards the fiery pillar. Night fell, but the Saint Continent was still as bright as day. The holy flames flowed in the sky, releasing a divine golden light aura that chased away the darkness. With that, he turned and left. The golden holy flames once again enveloped his body. He walked towards the center of temple, the altar in the center of temple, where his most loyal companion, his most reliable partner, clan elder Ta Fei stood. After a long time, only the flames remained. Xin acutely noticed that Tang Tian was different from usual. His voice was still Tang Tian's, but it was filled with indifference. They had interacted with Tang Tian for a long time and had a basic understanding of Tang Tian, and usually Tang Tian was a passionate person. The gold-grade spirit cards that floated in the air formed a golden ring. On top of the golden ring, Tang Tian opened up his arms, as though he was hugging the sky. The new temple would rule the entire world. Regardless if it was the sacred Saint Galaxy or Heaven's Road, they would all belong to temple. A sigh came out from the flames, and only at this time would the great clan elder's voice have an additional tinge of old age and sorrow. He stood in front of the tomb for a long time, until night fell. Suddenly, specks of golden light scattered down, like golden snowflakes. It was extremely beautiful. Xian extended his palm out, attempting to catch the specks of light, but the specks of light slipped past his palm and fell to the ground. The specks of golden light fell to the ground, causing the ground to be dyed with a layer of faint golden light. The speed of the windscreen became faster and faster. It was like a gigantic vortex, producing a powerful suction force, causing the surrounding holy flames to be attracted towards it. The golden pattern beneath their feet once again erupted with light auras, as though they were standing in a golden vortex. The past was the past. What was lost, so what did it matter if they could be saved or not? That was the only reason left for him to live. The spirit cards beneath his feet released dazzling golden light. The congealed golden light seemed to have submerged Tang Tian's figure. The surrounding air started to change. They started to flow along the golden ring, and a faint wind screen formed around the golden ring. "You coward! Coward! Fool!" The flames danced wildly. The great clan elder was extremely agitated and hysterical. Chapter 9:29. Without hesitation, he immediately guided a hollowified energy sword aura from the windscreen towards the holy flame. The moment the sword aura struck the holy flame, it exploded into countless of energy pearls as though it was raining. Although Qie knew that Tang Tian had suffered a lot in the past few years, but hearing Sima Zhao's words, she still felt an indescribable pain in her heart. Qie immediately ignored Xian and the rest who were screaming. Her gaze was fixated on the golden figure above the tornado, and she could not shift her gaze away. Without a sound, the two were destroyed at the same time. "Yes, it is the Whirlpool Sword Storm," Sima Zhao explained. "It originates from the Whirlpool Sword Spirit Tempering Technique, and is a technique that uses sword concept to temper the martial spirit." In Tang Tian's hands, it flourished, and the Whirlpool Sword became the Whirlpool Sword Storm, which Tang Tian trained in when he was in the Ursa Major constellation, and in the end, used it to kill a saint. The hollowified energy in the air slowly converged towards the core of the emulated laws, and in the next moment, a strand of holy flame appeared in front of Tang Tian. The newly formed holy flame was much dimmer than before, and the flames were much smaller. The most praiseworthy thing about the holy flame was its thought process and creativity, and not its techniques towards laws and energy. Since there was no way to separate the two, then he would destroy the balance between the two, using laws to break through the hollowified energy and collide with the emulated laws. When the two collided, it would cause them to be destroyed, and Tang Tian would be able to obtain the pure hollowified energy. This was the most exhausting step, but it was also a step that could not be missed. Xian felt as though he was about to fly. The feeling was too satisfying, something he had never experienced before. Tang Tian immediately had the urge to cry. "I can't continue like this." Of course, it might not be easy, but it was ultimately a feasible method, and it was the only method that Tang Tian could think of in such a short period of time. As for the risks, Tang Tian could not be bothered about it at the moment. Tang Tian was surprised, but very quickly he thought about it. The sensitivity and powerful control of laws meant that he could do all sorts of experiments, and that was the most powerful aspect of the awakened god armor. All sorts of experiments and the relationship between the various laws were of great help to him in understanding the laws. This advantage was something that even Dooku, who had a law domain, could not achieve. If Dooku knew of the miraculous use of the awakened god armor, he would probably be drooling on the spot. When they heard the wails coming from inside, they immediately looked like they had expected it. But as the shrill cries and wails grew more and more mournful, they couldn't help but be alarmed and pale. What exactly is happening inside? What exactly did Master do to Xian and the others? Why were they in so much pain? But even if it was Tang Tian, he could not do it. That was because his god equipment could control nomological threads, but it was useless against virtual nomological threads. Before this, Tang Tian had never seen emulated laws or holified energy. Sima Zhao's words were filled with awe and respect. The longer one interacted with Tang Tian, the harder it was for one to feel enmity towards him. Suddenly, the gold-ranked spirit card released a golden light, and the restless holy flames froze. But the real test was about to begin. When Xie heard that Tang Tian had trained in it before, his heart could not help but tremble. Chi, an extremely fine sound of something tearing through the air came out, but inside the water pillar, it was undetectable. Whirlpool Sword Storm. Xie turned and asked, absorbing the holified energy from the ground. The windscreen started to change. The originally thin windscreen was now like a layer of water screen. Very few people train in the Whirlpool Sword Spirit tempering technique, because the cultivator needs to endure extreme pain, and is hailed as the cruelest tempering spirit technique. Who knew that Tang Tian would actually be able to create an even more terrifying whirlpool sword storm? The pain is simply unimaginable, and is hailed as the limit of what a human can endure. For Tang Tian to be able to achieve what he has today, it is truly admirable. Very quickly, his eyes lit up. Everyone had their suspicions and did not understand. Only Sima Zhao seemed to be in deep thoughts. His eyes suddenly lit up with a strange light aura, and he blurted out, "Whirlpool Sword Storm." This thought was the first to be rejected by Tang Tian. The Whirlpool Sword Storm's current size was already extremely huge. Its height had already reached 120 m, and its diameter had reached 50 m, like a small mountain. Such a gigantic being. The power it contained was extremely terrifying, and was not something he alone could contend against. If one day Tang Tian was able to understand the essence of laws, he would be able to create his own laws, and that was a domain that humans had never reached before. All right, in truth, Tang Tian was too busy to care about it. Tang Tian, who was in the state of the god armor, was extremely sensitive and instinctive towards data. He was extremely calm. According to the current growth rate of the two, in 10 minutes, he would be submerged by the tide of holy flames. And at that time, the critical point would appear, and the first fish that escaped the net would appear. Xie revealed a look of reluctance. Her gaze was fixated on the wind screen vortex. He had missed out on an important detail upon the formation of the Whirlpool Sword Storm. It would have the ability to strengthen itself, and would not be controlled by him. The current situation was like that. The Whirlpool Sword Storm continued to expand, and its suction force was also increasing at an astonishing rate. Chi, chi, chi. Those were the most common words used by the citizens of the Ursa Major constellation to motivate their children. If Tang Tian knew about it, he would definitely cry, "What do you mean by courage after being ashamed?" Those fellows are obviously rejoicing in my misfortune, coming here every day to listen to my screams. It is simply for the sake of happiness. Xian did not notice that beneath his feet. He felt that it was somewhat familiar. It was like the ruins of an energy house that was releasing a faint light aura. The raindrops of holified energy smashed onto the ground and instantly seeped into the ground. The holified energy that seeped into the ground would then enter the windscreen. He only needed to draw and sword auras from the windscreen and use them to destroy the holy flames. Then he could easily control the law threads and destroy the emulated laws. The amount of holified energy in the windscreen was endless, which meant that the number of sword auras were endless as well. With that, his speed of handling the holy flames would explosively increase to an astonishing level. Child, look at how even His Majesty has to pay such a huge price for his achievements. What qualifications do you have to be afraid of pain and fatigue? No matter how miserable it is, can it be more miserable than His Majesty? No matter how painful it is, can it be more painful than His Majesty? Do you know why our Ursa Major constellation's armies are invincible? Back then, the generals and soldiers under His Majesty would specially stand outside the windscreen and cry when they heard His Majesty's screams. And from then on, they became courageous and worked hard to become the invincible elites under His Majesty. Even with the help of the awakened God armor, it was still not an easy task. The amount of holy flames was truly too much, to the point that it made one's hair stand. He was extremely curious. How many spirit generals did the great clan elder prepare? With so many holy flames, how many spirit generals do I need to absorb them all? Tang Tian did not stop him, but carefully observed the entire process. I need to make a change. Tang Tian was extremely clear on this point. Almost all of the spirit generals were struck. The sword auras formed from the hollowified energy all carried extremely cold and sharp auras, causing all of the spirit generals to feel as though they were about to be sliced apart. Compared to Tang Tian's sword Tempest Cyclone, the sword Tempest Cyclone formed from the hollowified energy was even more terrifying. After all, the energy density of the constellation that Tang Tian was in could not be compared to the Saint Continent. Furthermore, the hollowified energy was much stronger than ordinary energy. Xiao Ran, who was by the side, also felt comfortable, but when she saw Xian's wretched expression from the corner of her eyes, she almost raised her leg and kicked him as far away as she could. But after considering that it was a crucial moment, she endured and worked hard to absorb the hollowified energy. I need more law threads. Only with more law threads can I handle more holy flames. More law threads is not difficult. As long as Tang Tian relaxes his control over the God armor, he can control even more law threads. But the more law threads, the higher the requirement for control, and he was unable to control so many law threads at the same time. His efficiency was much higher than at the start, and the vast amount of holy flames allowed him to gain an abundance of experience. Currently, he could handle 500 strands of holy flames at the same time without any mistakes. But the continuous increase in speed did not make him happy at all, but instead caused him to feel the pressure that continued to increase. All right, Big Brother Tian has experienced it before, then you guys better enjoy it. Do your best. She knew that Tang Tian definitely had some special method, but hearing their screams, she could not help but pray in her heart, you guys better hold on. Tang Tian immediately realized that he had grasped the crux of the problem. Tang Tian seemed to have understood something. He guided the sword auras to strike the holy flames, and the process repeated itself. Tang Tian tried it a few times and looked at every single detail carefully, and finally understood it. Countless sword auras formed from hollowified energy shot out from the windscreen. The law threads in Tang Tian's hands immediately attracted the attention of the holy flames, which initially floated above the gold spirit card, became restless. The sword auras were formed from hollowified energy, and when they struck the holy flames, as the two energies were of the same attribute, they did not dissipate. But the power of the sword auras caused the structures of both parties to shatter, and the hollowified energy of the holy flames and the emulated law core were separated. Tang Tian focused on controlling the rhythm, and when the number of holy flames surging in reached 100, the wind screen isolated the aura. The holy flames that were surging and lost their target, and their speed suddenly decreased, and they floated outside the windscreen like jellyfish. Tang Tian tried it again, and like the previous time, the emulated law core was exposed in the air, but this time, Tang Tian controlled a law thread and struck the emulated law core. The law threads in Tang Tian's hands dimmed slightly, and a layer of energy appeared on their surface. Tang Tian's hands trembled, and the law threads that were enveloped in energy became taut, and like arrows, they pierced into the holy flames. Doesn't that mean I have to experience the sword Tempest Cyclone again? Xian never thought that it was just the beginning. Decrease the speed of the sword Tempest Cyclone. How can I reduce the consumption of energy? then I can only increase the speed at which I handle the holy flames. But how can I increase the speed at which I handle the holy flames? Exion's mouth was wide open, his face revealing an expression of enjoyment. It felt so good. He felt that he had wasted the past 10,000 years. But he still retained a trace of consciousness. He did not forget Tang Tian's reminder. Could it be that son-in-law is reminding us that we are in pain from overeating? Oh my, that is truly unbearable. The energy enveloping the law threads quickly melted. The hollow-fied energy and energy were also mortal enemies. Right before the energy melted, the law threads touched the illusory figure in the center of the holy flames. As expected, it is as I thought. Tang Tian's eyes lit up. He had found a way. From this, Tang Tian's improvement could be seen. In the past, he could only use his godfists to gather law threads. But now he was able to use various methods to grab onto the law threads in the air. It was an all-round improvement. He felt that it was getting more and more strenuous, and he knew that his improvement could not keep up with the expansion of the sword tempest cyclone. After being struck, the hollow-fied energy and sword auras of the holy flames had dissipated at the same time, but the emulated law core inside the holy flames was still intact. But without the protection of the hollow-fied energy, it was completely exposed in the air. It was a strand of gray mist that was thinner than a hair and emitted an obscure aura. Without any sound, the emulated law and the law threads that pierced into the holy flames were instantly destroyed. The holy flames were like worms that had their bones removed, or like a candle that had its wick removed. It slowly dispersed. In the blink of the eye, the dispersed holy flames became transparent light spots. This was the true form of the hollow-fied energy. Without the emulated radiant law, the pure hollow-fied energy was transparent and colorless. Xiao Man's reaction was much faster than Xian, and at the same time, she held her blade in front of her. But what happened next surprised her. The sword aura actually directly entered her blade, and the sharp intent caused her entire body to go numb. But because of the downpour inside the windscreen, no one noticed the change in the windscreen. With the addition of the hollow-fied energy, the windscreen became even more attractive to the holy flames, and the speed at which the holy flames surged increased. Xian, and the rest felt that if it was a downpour previously, it was as though they were being struck by a waterfall. Godlike young lad. Behind these 6 words, he was soaked with sweat and blood and endured a lot of pain and loneliness. You can't even be jealous of such a person. If there were no other external factors, the emulated law core would attract the hollow-fied energy, and they would once again form the holy flames. Tang Tian thought of another idea. Seems like it is not only about the number of law threads, but also the process of handling the holy flames. The stronger the sword tempest cyclone, the more intense the pain, and the more intense the wails. Inside the windscreen, 100 strands of holy flames dispersed, and above every gold-grade spirit card floated a strand of holy flame. The spirit card's gold light enveloped the holy flames, and the unique aura of the spirit cards caused the holy flames to freeze in place. Even the speed at which the flames danced became slower, as they were attracted by the aura of the spirit cards. After the first success, Tang Tian's confidence grew. His hand movements became more and more familiar, and the amount of holy flames surging increased. This directly caused the hollow-fied energy to become more and more concentrated, and Xian and the rest felt as though they were in a downpour. In the past, Tang Tian was the person he paid close attention to, and he was extremely clear of the major events that happened in the Ursa Major constellation. He had specially investigated the sword tempest cyclone before. When he first saw the windscreen, he did not think of it, but when he heard the sword wails inside, he immediately thought of what was in front of him. It was a pity that he did not know. Every dot of light was a standard sphere, like a transparent ball. If Crane or Ling Su were here, they would be able to recognize it immediately the sword tempest cyclone. That was the sword tempest cyclone that Tang Tian used to scare everyone half to death in the past. In the Ursa Major constellation, when Tang Tian was able to complete the sword tempest cyclone in the past, he had won countless praises. Of course, what everyone enjoyed the most was Tang Tian's continuous wails and wails for the past few months. The mournful wails and wails would cause anyone who heard it to cry. Bang, bang, bang. After the painful experience, even after such a long time, even if he was in the state of the god armor, Tang Tian's body could not help but tremble. He was still rejoicing in the misfortune of Xian and the rest, but in the blink of an eye, he himself had fallen into the pit. Holy flames surged over from all directions. The spirit chi on the gold rank spirit card attracted them. The spirit chi of the gold rank spirit card was extremely attractive to them. The unique characteristics of the awakened god armor did not help Tang Tian much in understanding a particular law, but in terms of understanding the relationship between laws and understanding the origin of laws, it had an unparalleled advantage. If he truly did that, it meant that he would have to face the sword auras, the astonishing number of sword auras. Tang Tian's usage of the god armor was not only for fighting. To him, the sensitivity and control of laws to the extreme was not for fighting, but for training. Xian was puzzled. It's not painful, and there's nothing for me to endure. Tang Tian looked at the scene below him. Until now, everything was still in his control. Sword, in the moment of life and death, a person's potential would be stimulated to the maximum, and that was the easiest time to break through. Although it was extremely dangerous to use battle to nurture battle, but it was a widely recognized concept. But the flash of inspiration in the moment of life and death was all built on perseverance and bitter training. Without the deep accumulation, it was impossible to have a flash of inspiration in the moment of life and death. Xian's body suddenly froze. A sharp pain spread from his thigh to his entire body. He was stunned for a few seconds before he reacted and let out a heart-wrenching scream. They pierced through the layer of golden light released by the spirit cards and poured down like rain. When the light landed on the spirit generals, they immediately permeated into their bodies, and all of the spirit generals were roused. Xian and Xiao Ran were elated. They could feel their bodies becoming stronger. Without needing his orders, all of the spirit generals were busy receiving more hollowified energy. But there was too much hollowified energy, and although they received a lot of it still fell to the ground. Tang Tian, who had his arms wide open, carefully experienced the law threads that were drifting in the air. Suddenly, his eyes lit up with a cold light. He clenched his 10 fingers together and grabbed the air, causing the flickering light auras to appear in his palms. The cruelest thing in the world is this. Tang Tian did not know what was happening outside, and as for the screams and howls below, he did not feel the slightest bit of sympathy. Back then, when I was in a living hell, those assholes were actually listening to me with interest. Hee, now it's my turn to be interested. What shocked everyone even more was that the wind screen vortex was continuously expanding, and an endless stream of holy flames surged in from all directions. The wind screen vortex became bigger and bigger, and the sword cries became clearer and clearer. What if there's an external force? That's too awesome. Endure it for the master to say that. It's such a terrifying word. Xian's stupefied mind only had one thought. Asshole, that guy is speaking the truth. The immense pressure caused even Tang Tian, who was in the state of his god armor, to feel the suffocating pressure of empty Tai. His hands did not slow down at all, and his brain was operating at high speeds. What do I do? Chi. Tang Tian did not give up. He was thinking with all his might, and carefully recalled what was the most difficult part of handling the holy flames. Which step took up the most time? This question only flashed through his mind for a moment. The pressure he was under was greater than he had expected. The holy flames were hostile towards laws, and he needed to wrap the law threads with a layer of energy, and the layer of energy had to be neither thick nor thin, able to protect the law threads through the outer layer of the holy flames, and not obstruct the law threads from clashing with the emulated laws at the core of the holy flames, causing the two to be destroyed. There were more and more sword auras, to the point that they were even more concentrated than raindrops. Under the guidance of the windscreen, they revolved at high speeds. The sharp whistling sounds became even more gloomy and became even more terrifying, causing people's scalps to go numb. The sword auras that revolved at high speeds were like a capstan of swords. The sharp sword concept pressed down from all directions, causing Xiao Ran to feel as though she was about to be grinded into pieces. She even felt as though her body was being torn apart. The intense pain pierced through her heart, but before she fainted, the hollowified energy continued to replenish and repair her body. Destroying is also much easier than constructing. The holy flames became sluggish, the emulated law threads appeared, and one of the law threads firmly pierced into their core. The holy flame structure was extremely stable. The emulated laws and hollowified energy had achieved a miraculous balance. This balance was extremely stable, and the two mutually influenced each other. It was almost impossible to directly extract the emulated laws from the holy flames. All right, Tang Tian is still far away from that, far beyond my reach. But what he was using now was his usual comprehension, his understanding of laws. The gloomy and soul-stirring whistling sound was unable to cover the heart-wrenching screams coming from within, causing Jizai and the rest to be frightened to the point that their faces turned pale. In truth, when Tang Tian had reminded Xian and the rest, Jizai and the rest had already rejoiced in their misfortune. They were extremely clear on how terrifying the master's measure of pain was. But if Xian knew about it, he would definitely crawl out of the windscreen, even if he was beaten to death. Tang Tian was fully focused on handling the holy flames. The dispersing hollowified energy slowly floated towards the core of the emulated laws. Suddenly, Tang Tian had a thought. If the hollowified energy transformed into sword auras and struck the holy flames, what would happen? Ayaya, it's really too painful. It's so full that it's painful. It's so satisfying that it's painful. Ha! The sword Tempest was an idea that struck Tang Tian because he felt that there were too many holy flames, and thus he was thinking, how could he make better use of them? At that time, he thought of the Whirlpool Sword Storm. The Whirlpool Sword Storm's original name was the Whirlpool Sword Spirit Tempering Technique. It was extremely suitable for Xian, Xiao Ran, and the rest. Under the state of the god armor, Tang Tian's sensitivity towards laws had reached an unimaginable level, and from that, it could be seen that the awakened god armor that Tang Tian had created was a powerful existence that was not inferior to the holy flames. The rate at which the holy flames surged and became faster and faster, and the holy flames required Tang Tian to handle before they could obtain the hollowified energy, if he did not handle it in time. And the holy flames mixed into the sword Tempest, and were transformed into sword auras, it would be fatal to Xian, Xiao Ran, and the rest. There was no end to this cycle. Chapter 930. Tang Tian suddenly had a thought. The previous sword Tempest Cyclone tempered my martial spirit. Then what is this sword Tempest Cyclone tempered? But he had never expected that he would actually have to use the sword Tempest Cyclone again. And the difficulty this time was much higher than the previous time, and it was no longer something that he could just endure. I need to maintain a high level of concentration, control the law threads, and strike the exposed emulated law core. According to logic, with such intense pain, Xian would have fainted long ago. But the hollowified energy that was constantly squeezing and healed his body, and the moment the wounds appeared, they would be healed. After that, they would crack and heal again, And this cycle would repeat endlessly. But I have no other choice. A pity for Muji Xia. The old commander suddenly spoke. A pity for the entire army. They were all good soldiers. The two of them were startled. They subconsciously looked at each other and saw the ecstasy in each other's eyes. The place where the sword pierced. Oh my God. SSS, SSS, SSS. Asshole. There was almost a fish that escaped the net. Oh my, I need to find a chance to beat Little Fool up. Oh my, that's great. I did not beat him up. If I'm in a bad mood, I will beat Little Fool up. All right. In truth, Tang Tian did not understand the mess of things on his body. He was suddenly curious and excited. His current body had already been tempered to the extreme, but his soul and the like had always been a headache for him. Because of Little Fool, he was very different from ordinary people in this aspect. The surrounding guards were about to stop him, but the old commander signaled for them to let him pass. An intense pain came from all parts of his body at the same time. Tang Tian felt as though he was being struck by a gigantic wave. He had difficulty breathing. His mind went blank for a moment. This time, other than laughing bitterly, even the calmness of the god Armor State could not stop him from laughing bitterly. In that moment, a large amount of holy flames were shattered, and the emulated law core was exposed. Old Tang could not help but sigh. Just watch. Temple is going against the flow. They are seeking their own destruction, and no one can save Temple. If God wishes to destroy them, he will definitely make them go crazy. For them to be so crazy, it is time for them to die. He didn't know if it was because he had experienced it before. Although the pain this time was also very intense, it wasn't as terrible as he had expected. After a while, he felt that he was gradually getting used to this intensity. Only the coldness that almost froze his soul made him feel a little pain. We have to settle this debt properly. Taking a deep breath, Tang Tian's eyes regained their calmness and determination. Since he couldn't avoid it, he might as well bring it on. Tang Tian's hands suddenly spread open again. The surrounding wind curtains suddenly exploded, and countless sword lights burst out like raindrops. He felt that he was really stupid. Just now, he felt the pain of eating too much, but he actually laughed. He wanted to cry. He was crying because of his own stupidity. Enduring the pain and numbness all over his body, Tang Tian controlled the laws with both hands and threw them out like a javelin, hitting the emulated law cores that were floating in the holy flames. Idiot! The regiment commander glanced at him from the corner of his eyes. If you haven't done anything wrong, you won't be afraid of ghosts knocking on your door. We can't cross the Wei Yiguan continent, the old commander said, honestly. He even had a bit of energy to think about the reason behind it. Could it be because of the hollow-fied energy? The sword auras were formed from the hollow-fied energy and would naturally have the characteristics of the hollow-fied energy. Could this be the characteristics of the hollow-fied energy? The intense pain caused him to grab onto everything that he could. Unknowingly, he had taken out the undying sword, his hands gripping onto the sword hilt tightly. All Xian could do was scream, and he could not even control his screams. To think that he would actually end up in such a miserable state. The old commander did not know what to say. He was not good at consoling people. In such a situation, it was truly not something that could be achieved by relying on schemes. All famed generals were most afraid of such a situation. Tang Tian had completely forgotten how he had deviated from the topic, but very quickly a scream came out of his mouth. He felt that he had jinxed himself. Just now, I actually felt that it wasn't painful enough. What's wrong with me? He had never heard of his own father doing anything to his own son's soul, and what made him unable to accept it was that in the old man's heart, Little Fool was actually the rightful choice. Old Tang's old commander and the rest solemnly buried Muji Xia Of course, they were unable to do any rites on the battlefield. The so-called solemnness was just an additional wooden plaque. On it were the words Mu Jixia's grave. Now, he had experienced it for himself. Childish. Tang Tian had gone through many difficult training, from the earliest 1,000,000 times of fundamental martial techniques to the fire scythe, ghost claws, grinding iron felt, etc., etc. Regardless of which training it was definitely not easy. But the one that left the biggest shadow in his heart, the one that he definitely did not want to experience a second time, was the sword Tempest Cyclone. The old commander was not moved. You are worse than a ghost. The hollow-fied energy that was like a waterfall had caused Xian and the rest to feel like they were swimming in the sea. Wrong. Not swimming, but sinking into the sea. As time passed, Tang Tian could clearly feel the pressure increasing. He knew that he could not drag on any longer. He had to admit that the effects of the sword Tempest Cyclone's training were outstanding, but even so, he definitely did not want to experience it a second time. He did not even have the courage to recall it. He did not even know how he had endured through that period of time. He was not sure if he could endure it a second time. It was rare for him to have such a mentality. One must know that he was definitely not a cowardly person. The sword Tempest Cyclone was like an inflated balloon, expanding at an astonishing rate. The number of sword auras were also increasing at an astonishing rate. The pain was also increasing at an astonishing rate. The rate of holy flames surging and was increasing, and the number of emulated law cores that Tang Tian needed to destroy was also increasing, and the hollow-fied energy was also increasing. But he knew that he could not allow anything to happen to him, and at the same time, he bit his tongue. The sweet taste of blood spread in his mouth, causing his mind to wake up, and he knew that it was not the time for him to be in a daze. He felt as if his soul was being twisted and trembling. Old Tang immediately stopped trembling and said, "I forgot that you are a ghost." The pain in his entire body was extremely clear, and it was completely different from the previous time. The pain this time was filled with traces of Yin coldness. The Yin coldness was not dense, but it was extremely penetrative. Tang Tian felt that his entire body was about to freeze, but he knew that the Yin coldness had directly permeated into his soul. His muscles and blood vessels were as good as new, without any signs of being frozen. Tang Tian could not count how many sword auras there were, or how many holy flames were destroyed. Tang Tian could not count either. He could only use all his strength to destroy the emulated law cores that appeared in his vision, frantically destroying them. He was like a killing machine that did not know what fatigue was. "Master, we have a way to enter the Wei Yiguan continent." The soldier's clothes were tattered, his face was skinny, his eyes were sunken in, and only his eyes revealed a bone-deep hatred. Thus, he screamed even more miserably. The two of them snorted at the same time. The two of them were used to such meaningless quarrels. He was truly feeling the pain of being stuffed. The sword auras felt as though they were slicing his flesh. The pain of being stuffed made him feel as though he could explode at any moment. The inhuman pain was causing him to almost faint. He wished that he could faint, but he did not have the chance to do so. Old Tang was silent. He knew the logic behind it. If not, the savage army would not have been stuck here for so long. But when he heard the answer, he could not conceal his disappointment. He had initially thought that with the old commander's standard, he might have a good idea. Tang Tian frantically used his law threads to attack the emulated law cores, as though only by being in a frenzy could he barely focus. He felt his mind going numb, the light in his eyes dimming, but his movements did not slow down. Old Tang suddenly trembled. Why is it a little cold?" Countless laws and emulated law cores were destroyed at the same time. "Old man, you better not let me find you." Humph, humph. He did not notice that the undying sword was like a dried-up sand dune, greedily devouring the hollow-fied energy. Xian felt as though he was a balloon. The hollowified energy was squeezing in from all parts of his body. That's right, it was squeezing in. At the start, they needed to absorb it by themselves, but now they did not want to, but the vast amount of hollowified energy was forcefully squeezing into his body from all directions. But at that moment, he could not stop, even if his soul was trembling in pain. He could not stop. The holy flames that were not dealt with, if they were to slip through and transform into sword auras, it would destroy Xian and the rest. Sigh. He suddenly inhaled a breath of cold air. His expression froze, and his face turned pale white. Old Tang turned and asked unwillingly, "Is there no other way?" Bang! Screams came out incessantly. He was unable to control himself. The pain in his body, no, it was the pain in his soul. His mind suddenly surfaced the scene of Clan Elder Su struggling in the holy flames, especially the scene of his soul struggling, although it was silent, but anyone who saw that scene would feel the terrifying pain. At this moment, a soldier who had just finished paying his respects walked over with a heavy gait. The hollowified energy was like seawater flowing backwards, trying its best to squeeze into his body, strand after strand. It was like being pricked by needles. His entire body was in pain. His entire body was in pain. His entire body was in pain. The only thing that comforted him was that the pain was evenly distributed. His gaze looked at the soldiers who were paying their respects to Mu Xia's grave, and he could not help but sigh. He was an old-fashioned general and had special feelings for the soldiers and could not bear to see such a scene. How could the soldiers have the spirit of the #1 army under the heavens? Their faces were withered, their eyes were empty, as though they were walking corpses. "We can only attack now, but the casualties will be huge," the old commander said helplessly. "Such an impregnable pass, and the one defending it is Jia, who is proficient in defense. We will not have a chance. I can bring them to take risks, but I cannot bring them to their deaths." Chapter 931. There had never been a time when he yearned for Tang Tian's victory so much. There had never been a time when he yearned to participate in a battle so much. The citizens of the Saint Continent were citizens of Temple, and their life and death had nothing to do with him, but he was still enraged. Xie Yuan believed that if he could see it clearly, Master Bing would definitely see it clearly. But Master Bing still insisted on doing it, and it was obvious that there was a reason why he had to do it. And in the Southern Alliance, there was only one person who could make Master Bing make such a decision, and that was the leader of the Southern Alliance, Tang Tian. Truly too tragic. Master Tang Tian had disappeared for a period of time, and Master Bing was the one handling the daily work. Master Bing's arrangements were very orderly, and the results were obvious, causing the Southern Alliance's strength to take a qualitative leap. Compared to them, Master Tang Tian did not seem to have any presence. But the true core members of the Southern Alliance were clear that Master Tang Tian's role in the Southern Alliance was irreplaceable, no matter how well Master Bing did. He was still unable to replace Master Tang Tian. All right, maybe I am thinking too much. Dooku was not too satisfied. Compared to the golden holy flames, the ethereal flames that he was imitating were much cruder. All right, I can only make do with it for now. After the battle ends, I can slowly research on it. The time for an all-out attack is ripe. He had seen all sorts of cruel things in the Sin domain, but none of them were as terrifying as the scene in front of him right now. He was unable to imagine. How crazy must one be to do such a deranged thing? Furthermore, Xie Yuan had a guess in his heart that he did not tell anyone. He suspected that Master Bing had infiltrated the Honorable Martial Continent. He had deduced this from all sorts of clues. For example, Master Bing's deployment in the battlefield, which seemed to be intentionally attracting the attention of the Honorable Martial Continent. He had a feeling that if Master Tang Tian was in the Honorable Martial Continent, he would definitely flip the entire Honorable Martial Continent upside down. He then realized that he had underestimated Temple in the past. The depth of Temple's foundation was truly revered. Their eyes flashed with a look of excitement, but their faces maintained their calmness. In the field of laws, he was a true grandmaster, and there were very few people that could earn his respect. Against such a crazy enemy, the slightest bit of carelessness or underestimation could very well lead to one's death. Thinking of this, Xie Yuan suddenly felt a little puzzled. Usually, he didn't feel that Sir Tang Tian had any sense of existence. Why did he feel that Sir Tang Tian was a good leader? Xie Yuan thought about it. The last time he felt that Master Bing's emotions were not right, and today he had completely confirmed the guess in his heart. To him, the opportunity to attack was not ripe enough. Moxin, Qiu Suhua, and Go Chengwendao were suspicious of each other, but they maintained their restraint. Du Ku only felt a bone-piercing chill. From the bottom of his feet to the top of his head, all the hairs on his body stood up. He could not help but shiver. After returning to the Sacred Saint Galaxy, he had always felt that the citizens of the Sacred Saint Galaxy were living a comfortable and happy life, and felt that the citizens of the Sin Domain were living in a harsh and cruel environment. However, the scene in front of him shattered this impression. He raised his head and looked at the thick fiery pillar and the flowing holy flames in the sky, as well as the blossoming holy flames floating in the air. His gaze landed on the blossoming holy flames. Every single holy flame was not big, most of them were the size of a finger, and the largest was not bigger than a fist. But there were too many of them. Like the sand in the Ganges River, they were uncountable. The holy flames were a form that existed between laws and energy, but in the end, they did not break away from the boundaries of laws and energy. As they flew, the carefree look on Dooku's face disappeared, and what replaced it was seriousness. Initially, he thought that Temple had used holy flames to seal the estuary, but very quickly, he realized that the number of holy flames was much more than he had imagined. When he rushed out of the holy flames near the estuary and saw the gigantic fiery pillars that held up the sky, his face completely changed. After the shock and fear, his expression became even more serious. He did not say anything, but instead, he supported Master Bing's decision. Although it was not the best time to attack, but Master Tang Tian's importance far outweighed the possible losses. Dooku was overwhelmed with shock. Could they be massacring the city? The creator of the holy flames walked a different path. The changes in laws and energy were astonishing in his hands. He was like a sorcerer of the law domain. He pulled the laws and energy into the shadows, turning the real into the void. These 4 words had reached the pinnacle in his hands. The virtual laws, the void energy, the unique yet ingenious balance. It was like a work of art, releasing an indescribable beauty. Dooku took a deep breath. His heart seemed to have a raging fire burning. Master Tang Tian's importance to the Southern Alliance was without a doubt, and sacrificing a few armies for him was an acceptable loss. But if anything were to happen to the Master, no matter how good their advantage was, it would be useless in the grand scheme of things. Different from the past, Bing did not have a cigarette in his hand. He stood in front of the map with a solemn expression. His gaze swept across the generals in front of him. Most of them had immature and young faces. But it was these youths, they were already veterans in the battlefield. With rich battle experience, their reputations had spread far and wide. In the entire Sacred Saint Galaxy, no one dared to look down on them. Although Master Tang Tian was not around, but his influence on the Southern Alliance had never stopped. Privately, everyone knew that Master Bing was able to use some mysterious method to communicate with Master Tang Tian, but he was ultimately a person who had gained enlightenment on the law domain, and after understanding the theory behind it, he could immediately counter it. With the law domain, he was undefeatable. In the domain, he was God. A layer of bright red flames surged around his body, But as time passed, the bright red flames gradually dimmed, from bright red to faint red, until it was almost colorless. When the flames became colorless, only a thin layer of flames remained, as though they could extinguish at any time, and did not have any temperature. This was the flame that Dukkha had imitated based on the holy flame's thoughts. Although the balance was not as exquisite as the holy flame, but in terms of nature, there was no difference. Dukkha exclaimed in surprise, compared to Tang Tian's unreasonable strength. The holy flame's exquisite and beautiful balance was something that he admired and loved more. The beauty of the holy flame was the product of thousands of refinements, and one could imagine how much effort its creator had put into it. Tang Tian's strength did not lie in his profound understanding of laws, but his ability to use a destructive stance to look down on all laws. Tang Tian did not care about the usage of any law. He used an unreasonable method to grab all the laws in his hands and use them for himself. In the law domain, Tang Tian was like a tyrant. His awakened god armor was the cage of laws. After researching on the holy flame for a long time, Dukkha roughly understood what was going on, and his heart was filled with admiration. That's right, anger, an unparalleled anger that surged from the deepest part of his heart. Xie Yuan threw all of the distracting thoughts out of his mind. He once again focused on the battle, and his mind started to work at high speeds. Even when he was at the rear, he had been paying close attention to the movements of the front lines. Although it was not the best time to attack, but it was not as bad as he thought. And from another point of view, the enemy's situation was even worse than them. If they were able to become the straw that broke the camel's back, then on the battlefield, they would most likely cause the honorable Marshall Continent to completely collapse. Suddenly, a terrifying thought flashed past his mind. Don't tell me. All he saw was gold. The holy flames were blocked by the transparent flames around his body. His thoughts were extremely accurate. He did not feel any pressure from the holy flames. Although the void fire around his body did not merge with the holy flames, but the similar aura prevented the holy flames from attacking Dukkha. The holy flames viewed the void fire around Dukkha as the same species. His calm eyes flashed with a rare look of excitement. The blood in his body was ignited just like that. Dukkha looked at the holy flames in a daze. The holy flames are so small, it means that the cultivator's realm is very low, and there are so many of them. They also possess an illusory law core and hollowified energy. Xie Yuan could roughly guess that Master Tang Tian was most likely in a dangerous situation, and Master Bing wanted to use an all-out attack to attract the attention of the Honorable Marshall Continent and relieve the pressure on Master Tang Tian. Temple was currently in an intense upheaval, and the conflict still needed time to ferment. If they were to take action now, it would be easier to force the enemies that already had cracks to unite again. In terms of techniques and realms, Tang Tian could lose, but in a real battle, Dukkha would definitely bet on Tang Tian to win without hesitation, even if it was himself. Dukkha, who was enveloped in the transparent flames, rushed into the sea of golden, holy flames. Dukkha flew forward leisurely. The holy flames around him surged endlessly. Dukkha's method was not ingenious. It was simple and direct, but he saw through the crux of the matter. The creator of the holy flames obviously did not forget about the existence of the Sin domain. The holy flames targeted both energy and laws, but the creator would never have thought that there would be someone in the world who could decipher the secrets of the holy flames so quickly and even find its loophole. Even in his dreams, he had never thought that the Saint Continent would have such a grand scene. Temple is truly too extravagant. What exactly happened in the Saint Continent? The previous one was Tang Tian, Southern Alliance High Command Department. Master Bing was an outstanding commander, but not an outstanding leader. The golden holy flames that filled the sky emitted a holy aura, but it made Dukkha feel extreme hatred. Dukkha increased his speed. He looked around for Tang Tian's figure. He believed that Tang Tian would not be defeated so easily, although the holy flames were outstanding. But Tang Tian felt that he was not a weakling, and Dooku had never seen anyone stronger than Tang Tian. Furthermore, Tang Tian was a genius born to fight. He had the fighting instincts of a wild beast and a calm and sharp mind during battle. He was the strongest fighting machine. As he continued to fly forward, he felt that something was amiss. No one from Temple came to interrogate him, and the cities had turned into ghost cities without a single soul. Everywhere, there were signs of broken walls and high-temperature melting. A large number of holy flames floated in the sky. The blossoming golden, holy flames were like golden dandelions that stretched endlessly.